My affiliate in Cleveland, Ohio, is one of the nation's great old, gigantic clear channel radio stations, WTAM 1100 in Cleveland. For that same radio station, there is a reporter. Mark Schwab is his name. That's SCHWAB. He's a sports news and sports reporter. And I began getting faxes, emails and faxes a couple of weeks ago, maybe not that long ago. And as we were contemplating the Ghost to Ghost program, people would write and say, did you know that there was a major incident with a sports reporter for WTAM? And I kept getting them. And finally, of course, I decided to call WTAM in Cleveland and find out what was going on. And here's the guy who can tell us, Mark Schwab. Mark, welcome.
Top of the very early morning to you, Art, from Central Florida.
To you as well. WTAM had sent you to Florida to do what?
Cover the Indians. Spring training with the flagship home of the tribe, and the Indians happen to be my beat. So when spring training rolls around, I pack up, head to Winter Haven, Florida, where they practice and get ready for the season, and stay there until the season starts.
Oh, well, so then you're the guy who kind of looks them over and gives Cleveland a preview of what their team might or might not do.
Exactly.
Uh-huh. How do they look, by the way?
On paper, they're excellent.
On paper, they're excellent.
On paper, they're excellent. They lost some guys, they brought some new guys in, and now, it's whether or not the new faces blend with the old, the team chemistry clicks, and a few questions in the pitching staff get ironed out, but there's so many question marks that a few of the ifs are bound to pan out, so they should be all right this year.
All right, so how long then? You stay there a total of how long?
I flew in on February 15th. I go home March 30th.
What did you do, rent an apartment or stay in a hotel or what?
They went to a country club and rented one big house for all of us to stay in, because I'm down here, and then eventually our show hosts will trickle in. And they'll do shows from down here, so there'll be more than one of us here eventually. There'll be 2, 3, 4, 5 of us, so they just rented one big house and put us all in there.
One big house?
One big house.
And therein lies, I guess...
the issue.
Actually, I've got to tell you, now, my emails could have been wrong, but they said that you got so scared, so freaked out over whatever it was that was happening that you refused to stay in the house.
Yeah, it got to the point I left one morning at 4:15 in the morning after hearing about an hour's worth of stuff. And, it was kind of funny because I'm so skeptical and hard-headed about this kind of stuff. I still don't believe in it, I guess. I don't know. It was, I'm usually the first person to tell someone they're an idiot or on crack when they say their house is haunted. So it took a bit for me to finally get out of there.
Well, it's a long trip from they've got to be on crack to I'm out of here.
Yeah.
So what the heck happened?
All right, I flew in on a Thursday, which was the 15th. The main event, I guess you could say, it really started to hit the fan on Sunday night, but for the 4 days prior, I just noticed it was a noisy house. Some houses are noisy. Appliances are loud, or you'll hear creaks or whatever, and those are just house noises.
Yeah, I've been in houses with bad pipes, and they're creepy. They make creepy sounds.
Yeah. It was weird, though, because I'd be in the living room on the couch, and it would sound like somebody was walking in the bedroom down the hall. It sounded like there would be a second person in there. But I just wrote it off as noise and figured, whatever. You're the only one here. Just don't worry about it.
And you knew you weren't doing lines of crack or whatever.
Yeah, and I've never touched a drug in my life, and I barely drink, so.
All right, so.
So let's go through 4 days of that, and then Sunday night, technically Monday morning, 3:04 a.m., an alarm clock goes off. And I thought it was mine at first because I had to get up at 7, looked up, wasn't 7 o'clock, and it wasn't my alarm. It was one in a bedroom down the hall, a room that I hadn't been in 3 days, and a clock that I had never touched. So I roll running down the hall, I turned this thing off, and how did this get on? And I thought somebody maybe had broke into the place. So I looked over the place, and nobody was in, the doors were still locked. said, okay. I went back to bed, and I'm laying in there. And it's driving me nuts. How did that clock get on?
Mm-hmm.
So I start hearing noise. Sounds like footsteps.
Footsteps?
Yeah, like somebody's walking in the living room or walking through a bedroom. I'm thinking, there is somebody in this place.
So now, but still, even at that point, a logical mind would say somebody's breaking in.
Yeah.
Or had you already gone past that? You knew nobody was in. I mean, where was your head at that point?
Well, at this point, I knew I had looked over and I didn't see anybody, but not really one to assume, oh, it must be a ghost. The logical explanation to me is there's got to be somebody in here and I just didn't see him.
Sure.
So I'm listening and I'm still hearing every once in a while what sounds like people walking around. And after about 10, 15 minutes of listening to this, from laying in my bed, I could see a little night light plugged in down the hall. And it's one of those really cheap night lights that they just plug right into the wall, and there's a little bulb on it that lights up orange.
Yes.
It must be like a half a candle power, and they've been around since like 1920.
I know the ones.
Okay. So there's one out there. And all of a sudden, it just goes off like the flash bulb on a camera. It just goes off that bright. It gets dark. I'm thinking, what is that? And I figure, okay, bulb must have just been burning out. That was its last hurrah.
Right.
That's why it's dark now. But I still can't figure out why every once in a while I'm hearing footsteps. And then there's a sliding door next to the bed and leading out to the pool. And I hear this whoosh, next to the sliding door. And the porch isn't closed, so I knew couldn't have been anybody in there. So I'm like, what the?
Yeah, that would have been enough for me right there. That would have been my limit.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
Okay, so I hear a swish, and I had no idea what that was. I'm thinking middle of the night, maybe I'm hearing stuff, I don't know. Well, I don't know, another 10, 15 minutes goes by, and it sounds like somebody, you know what it sounds like when you put a glass of water down on a counter?
Sure.
Okay, got that sound from a bathroom down the hall. And I'm like, what? And this is now reassuring to me that somebody is in the house. Somebody has broken in, I'm convinced. And I still hear more footsteps every once in a while. Well, another 15, 20 minutes go by. The nightlight in the hall flashes up real bright again. There went my theory of the bulb had just burned out.
Oh, you mean, oh my, back to life.
Yeah, came again, real bright. And then it just died. So I'm laying there in bed, trying to justify all this. I look at the clock, and suddenly it's almost 4 a.m. No, it's past, 4 o'clock, 4:05. And I'm like, I'm talking to myself now, Schwab, you've been awake an hour in the middle of the night, listening to the noises, and for whatever reason being scared. Nobody's in here, the doors are locked, shut up and go to sleep, you gotta be up early.
Sure.
So I roll over, shut my eyes, and then had them shut for about 15 seconds, and I will go to my grave, swearing the footsteps I heard in the hallway. Heard somebody walk into the bedroom and walk right up to the bed so close to it that I could have, reached out and grabbed them. Open my eyes, there's nobody there. Throw on the light, grab an iron, because it was the only thing I could find in the bedroom that resembled a weapon. Did a once-over of the place, couldn't find a soul. At that point, I didn't know what to do, so I just figured I got to get out of here. I got dressed, threw on my contact lenses, and and basically ducked out the back door, got in the car, and left.
And went what, to a motel or something?
No, I went to a payphone.
Payphone.
I got about 4:10, 4:15, but the time I got out of there, excuse me, called my wife. I woke her up, just like, hon, just bear with me for a minute. Tell me if I'm crazy. So I relayed everything to her, and she's like, no, I would have got out of there a lot sooner than you did.
Yeah, me too.
So I don't know what I did. Went and got a cup of coffee, called a couple people, called my minister. Your minister? Yeah.
Oh, that's interesting.
He's a friend of the family.
And what did he say?
He said, I relayed everything to him. He's like, yep, sounds like you might have something in there. And as a Christian, you believe that they can't hurt you. They can scare you, but they can't harm you. So he told me that, and I had already knew that anyway. He basically reassured me. So that got me enough gumption to at least go back in around 7 o'clock. And
you went back
Well, I had to go to work.
Oh, I see.
And I had to throw on a change of clothes, and my work bag was still there. So I went in for about 5 minutes and changed and got out of there. Nothing happened when I was back. One of the other phone calls I made was to my boss.
I was going to say...
my program director.
Who is your program director?
Ray Davis.
Ray Davis. So you called Ray.
I called Ray at home, and I'm like, Ray, you know me to be a pretty sane guy. He's like, yeah. So I told him everything, and he couldn't believe it. He believed me, but he was laughing, but he believed me. He's like, you got to understand, this does sound kind of funny back from our end. I'm like, yeah, I can imagine. So he knows this girl who is a paranormal expert, who apparently has been on our station before and done stuff with our station before. Her name was Marianne. So he called Marianne, and he said, she can find out just being on the phone with you whether or not they're in there, or if you're just crazy. I'm like, all right, great. Hopefully she'll tell me I'm crazy and I can just go on with life. And so he arranges it that at 3:10 that afternoon on our afternoon drive show, I'll be on with Mike, who was our show host, and Marianne will be on the phone too. So 3:10 rolls around. I go back to the house, not knowing what to expect. Everything was cool. Nobody. I walked in. I didn't have anything throwing stuff at me, I guess.
Yeah.
So I get on the phone. I recount my story to Mike, and everyone is listening. He thinks I'm half nuts, and then she starts to tell me what's up. She's like, "Well, I'll tell you this. Where's the room with the twin beds?" I'm like, "I never told you I had twin beds." So.
Did you tell anybody?
No.
No. Okay.
No. So she's like, "Well, one is in there. It's a female. She's around 55. I'm like, oh, all right. Great. No, that was a male. I'm sorry. That was 55. She said, I see like some kind of a split dresser with a mirror or something. I'm like, that's in the master bedroom. She's like, well, that's where the other one is. That's a female, around the same age. I'm like, okay. At this point, I'm like officially freaked out.
And this is all on the air.
This is on the air, which, by the way, was about the only thing keeping me sane through this afternoon. So she tells me then, is there something on the sink like a bag? I said, yeah. First I said no, and then I saw the bag, and she said, all right, she has moved. She is now there. And is there something like a bookshelf or maybe an entertainment center somewhere in their room? And there was an entertainment center with a TV in it. That was behind me. And she's like, okay, he's moved. He's now there, which would put them bookending me on each side of me by about 5 feet.
So she's following them foot for foot around the house?
Yeah.
Oh, my.
So I'm like, look to my left, look to my right. I'm like, so there's one on each side of me. She said, yes. And apparently that made them aware that I was aware of them, because then the swishing sound, which she had told me earlier in the conversation, the swishing sound that I heard the night before was them moving. So the swishing sound then all of a sudden picked up. Just...
While you were on the air?
While I'm on the air. Now, I had no windows open, no air conditioning on, no doors open. And for anyone that said, and I was trying to say at first, that's just a breeze. Still trying to convince myself that nothing was going on, but breezes don't turn corners. Breezes don't go straight and hook a right.
No, that's right.
So it was picking up. Just they're flying all over the place.
Oh my God! So
I'm on the air with them, and and Mike would be talking to Marianne saying, so what are they going to do? Are they going to come after one? And I would occasionally be like, hey, they're moving again. Here's what's going on. And I was on with Mike for about an hour.
A full hour of this?
A full hour of this stuff.
Great.
I was on hold and ready to hang up during our 4 o'clock newscast, which would have been around the clock, top of the hour, it'd been an hour. And all of a sudden I hear a water faucet in the bathroom down the hall just like start to run a little bit of water.
Nobody else is in the house?
Nobody else is in the house. And then I start hearing all this splashing.
Splashing?
Now I'm trying to think what the heck that is. And then it hits me. The pool is behind me. And nobody was in the pool. The pool was enclosed. Nobody could have got into it. I didn't have a neighbor nearby with kids in a pool. All this splashing and stuff going on. I'm like, great. They're swimming.
Yeah, they're swimming.
Wonderful. So I packed up. They told me they were sending me what are called smudge sticks, which I guess is like an incense that bothers the ghosts.
Oh, to hell with that. Get out of the house.
Well, I did for now. Then I got out. My boss told me they had overnighted them to me. So I hung up left, spent the night in a hotel.
Now, wait a minute. Your boss thought you were supposed to take... He was ordering you to take the smudge sticks and go back to the house?
The next day.
So, I don't think so.
Well, I ended up doing it.
Very well.
I'm on the air with them. My wife hears me. She can tell I'm freaked out. She flies down. Spends the night with me in the hotel. Come back the next day with our smudge sticks. We, light these things up. We're going through the house, and as we're putting them in each room, we can feel the ghost or whatever blow past me, out of the room.
Oh, my God. Holy mackerel. So, bottom line, you rid the house of them with the smudge sticks?
You know what? I guess it, knocks them out because we put them in every room. And then I called Mary Ann back, the paranormal expert, and I said, all right, so what's going on? She's like, well, one's in the bedroom, and it's pretty well knocked out. That's her, and the guy's out in the garage, and he's not doing so well either. I'm like, all right, great. So they were, hammered or drunk, stoned, whatever you want to call them. I don't know.
Probably pissed off.
Well, yeah, and you know what? Enjoy. So I took that opportunity to pack up all my stuff, got out of there, and haven't been back since. And I don't plan on it. When
you told your boss you weren't going back, I mean, that's it. I'm out of there.
Well, at first at first we didn't know, because fortunately the folks at the country club place were nice enough to believe us, and they just got us a new house. But at first we didn't know if that was going to be the case.
So you had to tell them this whole story and get them to believe you?
Yeah, and fortunately they believed us, and then we sent them a cassette of the hour I was on with Mike and the paranormal girl, and that might have helped convince them anyway. So they got us a new house, but it was up for a couple of days. We didn't know what we were going to do. I spent 2 nights in a hotel, and my boss was like, well, you just might have to keep using these smudge sticks every 2-3 days. We'll have somebody come in and bless the house. I'm like, no, I am not staying there.
Enough is enough, right?
Well, yeah, they also paged me. That was the other thing. When I got into the house, when I checked in that Thursday, 5 minutes after I had been there, my pager went off. 8888. Oh. And I didn't think anything of it. I figured somebody paged me a toll-free number, and I never got the rest of it. I called my boss, called a couple friends. Nobody had paged me, and I just disregarded it and moved on. After I hung up with Mike that day on the afternoon show, when Mary Ann had said they're here, and I had heard all the swishing, I hung up, went into the bedroom to pack up an overnight bag, and I got paged again, 8888. And I had talked to her later on. I said, can they do anything with your pager? She said, yeah, they can use the phone. It's easy for them to use the 5 and the 8 button. Oh, so I'm like, well,
Mark, as somebody who is very level-headed, because you still are, and never believed in this kind of stuff, how do you feel now?
Oh, I figure there's answers to it all, and I don't know them all. And you know what? I've been alive on this earth 26 and a half years. I've had to deal with it once. Honestly, I don't care enough to try to find out all the answers. I got out of the house. Just let me get back to doing my job of watching baseball, and I'll be a happy guy.
All right, brother, thank you very much for being here. Thank WTAM for allowing you to be here and telling your story. Good. All right. That certainly is appropriate for tonight, isn't it? Let me first tell you that on my website, we have about 3 pages of brand new ghost photographs for tonight's program. You just heard the reporter in the last half hour from WTAM in Cleveland, who was a complete non-believer in this sort of thing, and it got to the point where the house he was provided down in Florida no longer was livable. Obviously, it was haunted. And non-believer that he is, he finally had enough, and he left, and he will not go back to that house, and I don't blame him. When we do Ghost to Ghost, we do serious and real ghost stories. That's why it's frightening. These aren't made up. It's not baloney. It's real. So I warn you, if you frighten easily, turn the radio off. A lot of what you're going to hear tonight is going to be frightening. Most of what you're going to hear tonight comes from all of you. Your real stories. That's exactly what makes them so frightening. I don't laugh at people who have these experiences. I don't laugh at all. Mark Schwab I'm sure got chuckled at by his friends at WTAM. But I can assure you, if it happens to you, the smile gets wiped off your face very quickly indeed. Are ghosts captured on film? Yes, they are. On digital cameras? Yes, they are. And if you'll go to my website right now, you see, and you go to program and tonight's guest info, you will see Ghost to Ghost AM with Art Bell, and then below it you'll see recent ghost photos, 3 pages. Take a look at some of those. There's a fire photograph in there that is evil from start to finish. There's a photograph that'll just scare the you-know-what out of you. It's obviously not just the random flicker of a flame caught on film, but something truly evil caught on film. And that's one of many up there, but it's completely freaky. That's all I can tell you. Completely freaky. All right. Now, I've got somebody on the phone that sent me a fax earlier today that freaked me out because it has to do with a man that I worked with. And some of you may recall that I did a guest appearance on Dark Skies, NBC's Dark Skies. Remember that? And I played one of the Majestic 12 board members, and the actor that I was with, who was the star of the show, was J.T. Walsh, who passed away, I think now about 3 years ago. J.T. was a great guy, a great actor, and a man who helped me. I hate TV. Man, I hate television. I ward off TV like some people ward off evil. I just don't like it. I turn it down right and left. But working with JT was really fun because he was so relaxed and so natural and so intense with regard to what he was doing. And he just relaxed me, and we had a blast doing Dark Skies, an absolute blast. Now, why have I said all of this? Well, there's a reason. It's the man who sent me the fax. His name is Todd. Todd, welcome to the program.
Hi, Art.
Hi there. I know that you're coming on here tentatively and that you weren't even sure you wanted to do this, right?
Yeah, that's true, Art. The only reason I'm coming on tentatively, I guess, is because I guess I'm not worried about myself. I just wanted to thank and respect the family of JT, and his son is a good friend of mine, and yeah, so it's an intimate thing. So I was a little bit tentative, but I thought, JT was a big fan of yours and of your show and of this type of subject.
Apparently so. Now, I didn't really know that. I mean, I knew the show that JT was doing, but you put some details in the facts that surprised me. I had no idea JT was apparently into the unusual, but he wasn't he? Now, you were in JT's house. Why were you in his house?
Well, his son, as I mentioned, is a good friend of mine. And about 2 years after JT passed, myself and 2 other friends moved into the house with his son.
I met his son at or I should say his son met me at the airport, believe it or not.
Right.
JT sent his son down to the airport when I came to do that episode of Dark Skies, so I met his son. Very nice fellow.
Yeah, he actually had mentioned that to me once before.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah.
All right, so you moved into the house with his son and then one other?
Actually, 2 other people.
2 others, all right.
And we all from time to time had a number of experiences, but I think that I probably, for some reason, had the most, or kind of absorbed the brunt of the experiences. As a matter of fact, as that last guest that you just had on there, I just wanted to say that those types of stories in the house were a common type occurrence.
What kind of, like what?
Well, first of all, I want to say that I always got the sense that this spirit in the house was not a mean spirit. As a matter of fact, it was quite friendly, and just the sense that I got, and I got the sense that the spirit actually kind of liked us being there and living in the house. But, well, here's one.
Okay, well, just before you go on, you wrote, I also want to point out the study, which I guess you're going to talk about, was filled with books paralleling the topics of your show, including books on ghosts and communicating from the other side. This is in J.T. Walsh's house, right?
That's correct.
Okay. So some I still have in my possession to this day. You say including a copy of the script from the episode that I was in with him?
Dark Skies, yeah.
You're kidding.
No. As a matter of fact, Art, I learned of JT's death from your show. I was driving in my car late that night, and I was friends with John, although I didn't know JT in life. I was friends with John. I was riding home late at night listening to your show, and I learned of JT's death from your program, from your voice.
So JT obviously was considering all of this, whether there was life after death, and if there was, could one communicate from the other side? He was obviously considering all this.
Most definitely. In my opinion. So
then, at one point in here, you say you were finally living in a full-blown haunted house. Is that accurate?
That's accurate, yes.
Okay, when you say full-blown haunted house, what do you mean?
Well, just like that gentleman was talking about earlier, I'm talking about, common thing was hearing footsteps a lot, flickering of lights on and off, doors that would lock. We never, like, for example, the front door would lock a lot, but none of us, we were all bachelors, it was just kind of foolish, but none of us had a key to the front door, and you could only lock it from the inside. And there was a lot of times that I stayed alone in the house, and I would leave to go do this or do that, and I couldn't have possibly locked the front door myself, because then I wouldn't have been able to leave the house, because I could only lock it from the inside without a key. I would come home a lot and the front door would be locked, and I would be the only person that would be there. Every now and then you would hear like a distant kind of a whispering voice over your shoulder, and you kind of look to see, and
really?
A lot of times you really got an intense feeling of being watched, and particularly in different parts of the house. As a matter of fact, later on, as the experience began to escalate, we went through 2 different sets of cleaning ladies because they refused to clean in the house anymore because of the experiences that they were having.
You're kidding.
No.
Obviously you're not.
No, I'm not.
Is it your view that it was JT? Do you have any...
you know what? I'm not a medium, and I'm not the expert at all, like the woman, who was on the previous interview. But if it wasn't him, I got the sense that it was. If it wasn't him, then it could have been another spirit that was maybe posing as him. His ashes were in the house. There were a lot of different things that pointed in that direction. I would work in his study a lot, and different times and I'm an aspiring filmmaker myself, and I'd be breaking down the script and coming up with creative choices. And in a weird, backhanded kind of a way, I would get this sense of inspiration, so to speak, that when I would reach a sticking point, and as these different things began to escalate. Oh, and by the way, there was a front gate, electric gate, that would open and close on its own when you had to know which telephone line and what the code was for that. I mean, these things went on and on and on all the time. There were times when my girlfriend and I, who I was dating at the time, it became so obvious that we would literally leave the house for the night. It was a classic haunting.
What do you mean by a normal glass of wine would turn into a bottle or even 2? What do you mean?
Oh, that was where I was kind of leading. Eventually, my personality when I was in the house kind of began to change.
Oh?
This is kind of more difficult to talk about than I thought. I would start picking up books that I wouldn't normally pick up, watching movies I wouldn't normally watch. I started drinking a lot more in the house than I normally would, and I know JT in his past had that habit, and just lots of different things. It was almost as if I was kind of taking on his personality, and I don't know if this means anything. I'm not an expert by any means, but it was almost like there was residual life or energy from him, some kind of in the furniture and the walls and the artwork and the books and everything that almost kind of rubbed off on you. I don't know if that makes any sense, but
sure, it does.
That was kind of how it felt. And one night in particular,
I wonder if you're kind of an empath of some sort. That would be somebody who is able to feel what others are feeling. That imprint is on them, and they essentially start to become that and start to feel the pain, if not more, from that person or entity in this case.
I think that that's probably true. At any rate, my personality when I was in the house was kind of starting to change, and this night in particular was getting close toward the sale of the house, and which was kind of another factor. Things really kind of started to escalate, particularly with my kind of empathic experience, as you put it. And I just was going to start off by having a glass of wine, and a glass of wine led to, those big, huge bottles of wine that are almost as big as 2 or 3. Yeah. So I ended up drinking that whole thing by myself in the hot tub that night and breaking glass all over the house.
Now, there are people who are going to say doing that could cause delusions.
Well, that's probably true. And I would admit that, But it may be just coincidence. It may have just been an unconscious thing. But the next morning, the realtor was coming to show the house, which was obviously wasn't a very good thing. But I always kind of got the sense that whatever the spirit was didn't want us to leave and didn't want any new people to come in.
Now, that would make sense, wouldn't it?
It did kind of at the time, yeah.
Since his son was there.
That's correct.
That would make all the sense in the world. And by the way, what did his son say about? Did you talk with him about this?
We did, and there were, the other guys in the house were having pretty intense experiences as well. He had mentioned that there were other friends and family, close friends and family that he had noticed other things, and he didn't deny the fact, but he didn't quite have the intense experiences, I don't think, that we had. So I don't know if in a weird kind of a way it kind of comforted him, or I can't really speak for him, but he was aware of it, but I just don't think to the extent that we were.
Well, J.T. Walsh was a very, very strong personality. Mm-hmm. So it would not surprise me that in death, if it were possible, and if we don't know half of what we know about the other side, and right. And ghosts. I'm still learning, as everybody else is, but such a strong, dominant personality might indeed make an imprint of the sort that you described on somebody living in that house, particularly shortly after death. I really can see that happening.
It wouldn't surprise me at all. Although, I will say, for a large part of this, even though you kind of became aware, of this was happening, you still are kind of in a sense of denial when things happen to you right in front of your face. When the door locks right in front of your face or whatever it might be, you still are in a sense of denial about it. You don't live every moment while you're in a house like this where you're constantly thinking about it.
Sure. Which
kind of leads to my last story. This gets a little bit crazier.
That's okay. Go ahead.
Well, one of the things that would happen to me a lot, almost nightly, is my bed would shake. And there would be the fresh smell of smoke coming from the next room, which was the smoking room. And JT was a smoker and, things like that, which I don't know if that's the case or not. But
your bed would shake?
My bed would shake almost nightly.
And how hard? I mean, I remember
until I woke up.
You remember The Exorcist?
Yeah, but it was never anything like that.
But enough to wake you up.
And usually it would until I woke up. And after a while, it would actually continue to shake after I was awake. And then after a while, again, it would just start shaking even before I fell asleep. And sometimes I couldn't tell if it was the bed that was shaking or if I knew it was shaking when I woke up and my heart was pounding so hard that it was my heart that was causing it. And yet sometimes I would feel like things in the mattress and like fingers and things like that. But I actually checked the mattress to see if there was mice in it and with my roommates and all kinds of stuff, and there was nothing. They happen almost every night. But this one night in particular, I had fallen into a very deep sleep, and I hadn't slept very deeply lately because of the shaking bed stuff. And I had reached this very deep place in sleep, that point where you kind of start to reach almost a sleep paralysis?
Absolutely.
You know what I mean?
Of course.
Well, it was almost as if, and I don't know this for certain, but this is the impression that I got, that whatever this being or entity was waiting for me to reach that place. And the moment that I did, I could almost see that it was almost as if it was a shadow-type being, grabbed my right arm from the right side of my bed and started to pull me out of my body.
pull you out of your body.
Pull me out of my own body, yes, that's correct. And it actually became a struggle for quite a while. It seemed like a long time, but I'm sure it was only just a few seconds. And I got the sense that this being was almost trying to get inside of me. I don't know if that's what it was, if it was just my imagination. I know it wasn't a dream. I know that for sure. And because as soon as I snapped back and kind of got right back into myself, I was awake right away. And that was by far, even though things had happened physically in the house and things like that, that was by far the most dramatic experience.
Let us begin. On the first-time caller line, you're on the air. Good morning.
Hello?
Hello?
Art.
Yes.
How's it going?
Fine. Where are you?
I'm in Ellensburg,
Washington.
Washington, where I felt the quake.
I was going to be the next question. Yeah, you did. All right.
Well, I have several stories of the same type. I'll tell you one.
Just give me your best shot.
The most recent, I was asleep in my girlfriend's place, and I had had a bad cough, and so during the night while I was coughing, I popped a lozenge in my mouth, and I felt 4 taps on my shoulder. I was asleep with the cough drop in my mouth.
You're not supposed to do that anyway.
Right.
With a cough drop in your mouth.
Right. Well, it was the only way I could sleep.
Right.
And they were such heavy taps that I woke my girlfriend and asked her, did you have to hit me like that?
Yep.
And it just made sense that I thought it was her telling me I had a cough drop in my mouth. But it was such a serious physical touch that there could be no way that it was anything else than her.
Only it was.
No, it wasn't.
Yes, it was something other than her.
Oh, yes, yeah.
So?
I thought so. And those are my other stories.
So what do you think had hold of you?
I don't know. I don't know if it was ethereal or just paranormal or I don't know. I have no idea.
Maybe it's something that wanted you to go somewhere.
Or not go somewhere.
Or not go somewhere.
By, not choking or whatever, because it was in the very back of my throat when I woke up.
The lozenge?
Yes.
Well, there are some who would say it was a sleep thing, that nobody was tapping on you.
But
there's others who would say that it was maybe your guardian angel trying to save your life because you were about to choke to death on a throat lozenge.
Well, right. I know it seems silly, but I wouldn't have called in if I didn't think it was...
No, not silly. Not silly, sir. I appreciate your call. Thank you. Maybe, look, who's to say what the nature of the other side is? Who's to say that besides scaring the you-know-what out of you and being evil, and there certainly are evil entities, and by the way, again, go to my website. You want to see an evil entity, I'll show you one. We've got 3 pages of recent ghost photos, and there's one in there of a fire, and if that's not the most evil entity I've ever seen, anyway, you judge for yourself at www.artbell.com. We've been saving the ghost photographs, the new ones, and we've got, I think, one of the best collections of ghosts on the web. But these recent ones we've been saving for you. Keith has been sort of compiling them. And by the way, if you have a really good ghost photograph, you can send it to webmaster@artbell.com. That's webmaster@artbell.com. Even tonight, we'll get it on if it's a really, really good one. So if you want to send one in, you're able to. Those who have done so in the last month or so are up there now, and a couple of them are really, really evil. Good morning on the wildcard line. You're on the air.
Hello.
Hello.
Hello, Mr. Art Bell, sir.
Yes.
My name is Josh. I'm in Seattle, Washington.
Oh, Seattle.
And the
ground zero.
I ask is, did I feel the earthquake?
Yep, you did,
I did,
obviously.
Definitely.
Where were you?
I was actually walking. I live up on the hill near White Center.
Right.
I was walking down the hill towards my bus stop, and I can see all of Seattle from there. And it was like kind of waving one way, and I was waving the other way. It was very disorientating.
Yes.
But yeah, so it was pretty weird. I actually do have a lot of better ghost stories than this one, but I want to tell this one because I actually caught a voice on tape.
Oh?
And I'd like to try to play that for you if I can.
Oh?
Yeah. This was over a year ago on the Halloween before last.
Yes?
It wasn't on that Halloween, but it was near it. I was working at a Halloween store, and I had a friend, a couple friends actually. They were telling me about weird stuff they saw around their apartment in Seattle, near SeaTac area.
Right.
And so I had heard on your show, actually, from the GIS.
Yes, Ghost Investigator Society, yes.
About taking a tape recorder and trying that.
Yeah, and you did?
Yeah, I actually thought, maybe I'll try that. So I went and bought a brand new tape recorder from Radio Shack.
Right.
Exactly the one I'm holding right now. And we went there, and the first question we asked was the one that I guess they suggested you should ask first, is anybody here kind of question.
Right.
And I'm sorry, I'm a little shaky right now.
No, that's all right. Just relax.
It's actually a pretty weird thing you're going to hear. If you can actually hear it, I'll try.
All right. Now, before you play it, tell me what it's going to say.
I have no idea. It does not sound like English. It sounds like Arabian or something.
All right. Now, let's qualify. A brand new tape recorder, and I hope a brand new tape.
Yes, a very brand new tape. Bought at Radio Shack as well.
Okay. All right. Good enough. And so you asked if anybody was there, and what we're about to hear is what came back to you.
Yeah. I got to let you know that at first, when we first played it back, it just sounded kind of like a background whispering.
Yes.
But I also knew some people who had equipment to amplify it and take out the noise.
Yeah, of course.
Noise.
Yep.
Right, and so it sounds kind of wavy.
All right, that's right. Go ahead. Let's hear it.
Okay, but it's going to play it twice now, and this is exactly what we heard at the first question, and we got no responses to any other questions after this.
All right.
Okay, here it goes. Anybody in here? Anybody in here?
Oh, man.
Okay, now did you hear that?
Oh, yes, I heard that too
isn't that amazing?
Yes, that's amazing. Oh, my God.
I'm not going to say for sure that this is totally genuine. It did go out of my hands for a couple minutes, but as far as I can tell, this is totally genuine.
So, yes, but before you had it analyzed for noise or to try to filter out the noise, which is a common thing to do in audio, you obviously heard something on the tape or you would not have given it to somebody to analyze.
Yeah, it just sounded kind of a whisper, kind of like kind of thing.
I've got you.
But it didn't answer anything like that after any of our other questions, like what is your name or anything like that. And I actually ended up living at this place a little while later because I needed some roommates. And I did actually witness some dishes flying off of a kitchen counter when we were talking something about tarot cards, and I said something about they're not evil, and then these dishes went flying off the counter.
Do me a favor. Next time you're in the house, instead of asking, is there anybody here, try this question. Want to take a ride?
Oh, boy. Yeah, I just might.
Yeah, and good luck to you, and thank you very much for the story and the tape, too. Oh, my goodness. Now, the young man had a tape recorder and a blank tape and caught that. Now, you tell me, what was that? What did we hear? I think we heard something from the other side. I think we heard something from an entity. Could we understand it? No. But the way it sounded, I'm not sure we would want to understand it. And I was kind of joking about asking anything further because if I got that kind of answer, I know the GIS folks do this kind of thing every day. But there's no way in the world that I would have proceeded past getting that answer. East of the Rockies, you're on the air. Hi.
Mark.
Yes.
How you doing? Bob from Philadelphia?
Yes. Hi, Bob.
Okay. This is not a real long story, but it's a little complicated. My father was a dentist. He purchased the house to put his practice in back in the early 1940s. I was born in 41. As a child, I went to the house while it was being renovated.
Yes, sir.
And on the second floor, it's a 3-story building. On the second floor, I felt really freezing cold, unusually cold, considering the rest of the building wasn't chilly in any way. And I felt that I was being watched. Well, my father said, no, you're just, being silly, so forth and so on. I didn't start to actually live in the building until the 1960s. And I was brought up to be one of these people who, did not, in fact, believe in any such thing as paranormal, ghosts, any of that kind of thing.
I understand, yes.
And the deal was that I purchased the house in 1970. I got married, and my wife and I, lived in this house. Anyway, my wife had said to me, you're talking to yourself. Why are you talking to yourself? And I said, that's not me. She said, well, why, isn't it you? Who's doing the talking if it's not you? There's only two of us here.
Right.
And I said, turn on the water. I happened to be in the bathroom at the time, which is a pretty good-sized room. I said, turn on the water in the sink. And she turned it on. I said, can you hear these voices better? Yeah. I said, turn on the tub. And then there was an electric space heater in there. Well, anyway, we turned everything on. And the louder the background noise became, the louder the voices became, until she was able to recognize that it was a man and a woman arguing. So, at any rate, we had problems with items that were missing or moved, like photos, magazines, tools. And I decided, since I was a commercial photographer, that what I would do is that I would try and see if there was any way to take a picture of whatever this was.
Oh.
I had purchased, you know what Heath kit is, right, or was?
I built more Heath kits than I can tell you.
Yeah, so I have a closet full of those myself.
That was an electronics manufacturer, folks, of ham gear, and in fact, they did audio, even television, in Benton Harbor, Michigan, I believe, right?
That's right. That's exactly right. I built a little GR104, portable TV, and I built radios. And anyway, one of the things that I had done is I had purchased a bunch of kits that all had to do with security. There was, ultrasonic detectors, with transducers. There were all kinds. There was a base unit, a phone dialer, a whole bunch of this stuff.
Sure.
And when we turned it on for the first time, of course, basically my wife thought that it was, something I had done that was wrong, but it wouldn't be on very long, especially at night, until, of course, the alarm went off. And it came down to the point where we shut the units off until we found out which one of the ones was going off the most. And I, of course, replaced it, and we had the same problem, and I did it 2 or 3 times. So I said, I'll bet you that whatever it is that's been, causing these noises and problems, again, second floor, 3-floor building, it was right there on the second floor. The one that faced the lengthway down the hall was the one that kept going off. So I said, if we can detect it, we can photograph it, because we'll be able to use something like aeroectochrome or whatever, and, strobe lights, Oh,
no, that makes all the sense in the world. You've got a way of identifying roughly where it is, so...
Oh, the exact distance.
You can set up and catch it. Yeah, I've got you.
And, at one point, I had even bought a kit from Polaroid, the Polaroid ultrasonics.
Oh, yes.
For distance measurement.
Yes.
And, at any rate, I wanted to set up a test. I wanted to see, if, what time of day was best. And, so I set this unit up and I took it down. It was above the door, mounted to the door frame. I took it down and I put it on top of one of the drawing table benches that I had.
Right.
Which is about 3 foot tall.
Right. Just
to make sure, I put some plywood through the rungs, and I put some encyclopedia on top of that. And I put the wire down through the door into the rear room. The hall runs east and west. There was a rear steps coming off just behind where this was. It went north-south, and the front stairway, again, ran east and west and met the hall in the middle.
So anyway, you were setting up an entity photographic trap.
Yes, exactly what I was doing.
All right, and?
I didn't know whether I'd have to back like this, front like this, but I just wanted to know. So anyway, I waited till my wife had gone out. We had a couple of cats. I put them in the bedroom on the 3rd floor and locked them in. Well, they were 5 minutes and they were sound asleep. I turned the central processor on, which would detect a signal from the ultrasonic on the 2nd floor, and I decided I better not move around the house, so I stayed in the 3rd floor kitchen.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't more than 5 minutes, then the alarm went off. Well, it was awfully loud, and so I thought, well, I better, the cats are going to, die of this noise. I walked into the bedroom. I turned the central processor off, so the alarm stopped, and then that's when I heard the crash. There was crashing and banging, scared the life out of me. I thought maybe, it wasn't picking up, in fact, an entity. It was picking up a burglar.
Mm-hmm.
And so I went downstairs, armed to the teeth, with the kitchen knife is all I had. And there's all my gear down the bottom of the steps.
All your gear?
Yes, everything. The ultrasonics at the bottom, the stools at the bottom, and the wire, interestingly enough, this had a very short AC cord. It actually put the signals back through the AC lines in the house so that it didn't require any additional, wiring of the building.
Right.
The deal was that all of this was down the bottom of the rear steps. There were dents in the side of the walls on the steps and the ceiling above the steps where it had bounced and bounced and bounced on the way down.
It's like somebody threw it down.
That's exactly what had happened. That was when I decided that, probably I shouldn't risk a Nikon or a Hasselblad.
I guess not.
Yeah. Actually, what it was more my wife's decision not to do.
Did you get any photographs?
No, I had. I was sort of thwarted in that regard by Linda saying, I don't think you should risk the photographic equipment, because if they could do that, they could do anything else, because this was a physical.
All right, now you said that going back to the water and the fact that you could hear some people arguing.
They were arguing over a child who apparently was sick.
All right, so you had a battling couple, apparently, a man and a woman?
Yes, it was a man and a woman, and we also had something else which apparently the cats could see, but we could not. Sometime later, just before we decided to make an end of this.
Do you know the history of the house?
The house was built in the early 1900s, around 1910 or 1911. And before my father purchased it, no, I had not checked that out. I still have not checked that out to see who owned it. But it could have been something to do with the influenza epidemic in the 20s. A child maybe died of it. And it all had to do with the second floor middle room and the hall adjacent to that. And the cats that we had, and I remember you saying not too long ago that you had experience with cats seeing things that you didn't see.
No, all the time, sure.
And when I had come back again once from doing something where I didn't want the cats to be involved, if I was painting anything, I used to put them in the bedroom. I heard one of them talking, and I thought, oh, well, they're awake, I'll let them out. And when I went in, one was sitting on a chair, one was on the floor, the other was on the bed, and they were looking. This room basically has a bay window that faces west, and faces our yard, actually, on the third floor, and they were all talking. I tried talking to them. They didn't pay any attention. So I turned one around physically. Now, of course, they never bit us and they never scratched us. So they just simply, tried to regain their original position with respect to that corner of the room.
Right.
They were looking just below the ceiling, which is very high, probably about 8 feet off the floor is where they were looking. And I couldn't see anything. So I went over and I opened up on the three windows. This would be the window left. I opened the shades on the window right. I opened the curtains. And out of the corner of my eye, not my central vision,
yes,
but my peripheral vision, I could see a darkness. And it looked sort of like what you would expect a gingerbread man to look like. That is to say, no definite limbs, but yes, there were what looked like legs, arms, and a head and a torso, but no real definition. No, you could not see, a fingernail. You could not see.
Oh, brother.
And here's this thing, and I cannot hear it. I cannot see it.
All right, listen, we're way out of time here.
I'm sorry.
No, that's all right. I appreciate the story, and I hope all is well with you now. That's some tale.
Yes, we had that taken care of. We basically prayed it out of here.
All right, thank you, my friend.
You have a nice night.
Remember, I'm doing this show tonight with a temperature of 100.5, so the flu is still with me, and it may have my thinking off kilter a little bit, and I may say things I ought not say, but is it not said that in the last days, the final days, the dead will rise? Is it not possible that in the days leading up to the end, the veil, and I call it that just because that's all I can think to call it, will begin to collapse? And I'm not suggesting these are the final days, but I guess I am suggesting there's a lot going on right now with regard to entities, ghosts, whatever you want to call them. An awful lot beginning to happen. You've got to wonder if it might not be the warm-up. West of the Rockies, you're on the air. Hi. Hello?
Hello?
Yes, hello?
Oh, hi, I'm sorry. This is Melissa from Van Nuys, California.
Hello, Melissa.
I have a little ghost story, I guess, to tell you. I went to a friend of a friend's home in December for a little arts and crafts meeting with about 5 women.
Right.
I've never been in the house. I pull up, and it's a beautiful, very large house built in the early 20s.
Mm-hmm.
I walk in, and it's kind of got an interesting feeling about it, just as old houses do, but I don't think anything about that. All of the other women go to the library to sit, and I go to the kitchen to get a drink. And the kitchen is in 3 parts, kind of a U shape. You have to go through the pantry, the kitchen, and to another third room to the refrigerator.
Gotcha.
I get a drink, and as I'm walking back, I walk through a game room that has basically the only thing in it is a pool table. And as I'm walking past the pool table, a multicolored ball rolls past my feet really quickly. And it's like a baseball-sized rubber ball, like a kid's ball. And when I had walked in the door, I'd noticed that the family had 2 cats. And I, of course, think it's one of the cats batting the ball at me.
Sure.
So I looked to the corner to see which little kitty had batted the ball, and the cats aren't there. And immediately what flashes through my mind is, okay, the ball went really fast, the floor's not uneven, something else did it, and I don't know what.
Right.
So I look to the library, which is about 500 feet away, and there are glass French doors where all the other women are, so to see if there's something going on, and the 2 cats are in there. So the cats could not have batted the ball.
Mm-hmm.
And like I said, it was really fast, and it rolled right past my feet and then stopped. I kind of get the hair on my arm stands up. I walk to this stranger's library and say, "Excuse me," to the lady who owns the house. "You don't have ghosts, do you? Ha, ha, ha." And she said, the smile falls from her face, and she said, "What did they do now?" And I'm like, oh, this has happened before. And she said, "What did they do?" And I said, "Well, a large ball rolled in front of my feet really quickly and stopped." And she said, "Yeah, well, they're kind of pranksters." And then she goes on to explain that her daughter, they had only lived in the house a few years. Her daughter had some sort of a incident in the basement where the ghost had tripped her, and she'd sprained her ankle. And she'd finally gone into the history of the house because she didn't know what was going on. And it turns out they're the 3rd family to own the house. The house was built in 1927. The original owners of the house had a very hard life, very hard time, lost a daughter to a very difficult circumstance, and the woman, who they feel is the person occupying the house still, was very sad, and so she started to tell me a bit about her, and she said her name was Mary Wells Brown, and she said, "Oh, I have a picture of her." And I said, "Oh, I'd love to see it," which I think is probably going to be a small snapshot. She said, "I found a picture of her in the attic, and I've decided to honor her. I had this picture of her so she doesn't feel like I'm occupying her house and not honoring her." And I said, "I'd love to see it." She touches a panel on the parquet wall, and the wall moves.
Really?
Yeah, revealing a hidden back room that is basically a shrine to this woman. There's a sepia-toned picture on the wall that's probably 2 by 3 feet with a carved wood frame hanging really far up above a fireplace. And I try to walk in the room, and I can't.
What do you mean you can't?
It's very cold to begin with. Which it was December, so it could have been, except that this is California. But anyway, the room was amazingly cold. I put 1 foot in to get closer to the picture of the woman, and I feel like I'm trapped in molasses.
Good Lord.
And I'm like, I can't move. And the woman goes, "You know what? That happens. I understand." So I literally back out of the room. I can't even, I'm not even in control of myself enough to turn around and move. I can only back my foot out of the room to get back into the library again because I can't go in that room. I've never had an experience like that. I couldn't explain it. Before
this occurred to you, had you ever had an experience like this?
Never.
Had you been a believer in ghosts or spirits or life after death or are you religious? What's your background?
Well, I am religious. I have a spirituality. Yes, I was raised Southern Baptist. I'm from Kentucky. Originally, I've lived in Los Angeles for 8 years. But I wanted to believe, sure. I mean, my mother passed away 9 years ago, and I'm an only child. And before she died, I was like, all right, look, you really have to come back. Death is not going to separate us. And I have not heard from her, so I'm a little pissed. But I'd wanted to believe, definitely. I've never had an experience like that in my life. Never.
And you're sure of what happened to you?
Absolutely.
Now, obviously, the woman in this house had encountered this whatever ghost so many times, she decided to build this shrine? Well,
when I say shrine, I suppose I'm being overly dramatic.
Well, no, if you push a button and the wall changes and a picture comes out, that's a kind of a shrine. She had to go to a lot of trouble to do that.
No, I think the wall, that sort of secret room was always there. I think she made that Mary Wells Brown's secret room. I mean, she hung the picture there, as it's like, all right, I'm giving her her own space so that she doesn't get honked off that we're here.
Well, that's going a pretty long way, isn't it?
Well, maybe.
Oh, my. All right, I really thank you for the story.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah, you take care. To the point that she physically could not enter the room. It would be sure fun to get the story from the lady who showed her the secret passageway, the secret room with the portrait of the woman. First time caller line, you're on the air on Ghost to Ghost AM. Good morning.
Good morning, Art.
Hi there.
How you doing? I'm calling from Akron, Ohio.
Akron, yes, sir.
I got a story about I went to school in a small town in Xenia, Ohio, and in 1974 they had a tornado there. Mm-hmm. And then on this campus of the school, they have what they call an armory. I'm sure you know what an armory is. You were in the military, am I correct?
Yes, of course I know.
At night, the kids at the school would say that this armory was haunted, and I never believed it. And they used to roller skate inside this armory all the time in the early 50s and 60s, and I went there from between 84 and 87. And one night I was walking up to, we have our hospital on campus, and going past this armory,
why is that even a thing?
In this armory at night.
Roller skating in an armory.
And to find out, back in 1974, they put all the people that from the town of Xenia when they had a tornado, and they had an F5 tornado.
Oh my God! And they put them in the armory.
Right, and none of the kids would go near this armory at night because it was spooked. They said it was haunted. And I've heard it from different people from the 50s, the 60s, and the 70s.
Was the armory hit by the tornado?
No. They just think this armory's haunted. People.
Yes, but obviously it was haunted by the children. The only time there would have been children there was, as you suggested, when they were there as a shelter.
Right.
So that brings up the specter of hauntings by the living, or the fact that some living person was there. This might not be a person who's yet passed away, and yet the echo of those people remains. It's kind of weird.
And you could plainly hear, it sounds just like someone roller skating.
No, I've got you. No, I understand. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. That's the other thing that I think I wanted to really bring up tonight, and that is, lately we've been hearing stories, apparent hauntings from people who are still alive. Now, what does that say? Does that say that our spirits are one in life and in death, and that we're capable of having that spirit remain in a certain place, doing a certain thing, even though we still live as when we die? I don't know. It's fascinating. Wildcard line, you're on the air. Hi. Hello? Hello?
Hello, sir.
Yes?
Yes, how you doing tonight?
I'm fine. Where are you?
Yeah, this is Dean in Tampa, Florida.
Hi, Dean.
Yeah, the last time we spoke, actually, for Ghost to Ghost, I had mentioned a story about a young lady named Clarity.
Oh, I remember the Clarity story, yes.
Yes, sir. I don't know if you want me to update the newer listeners, or it was quite a story, but I actually had an experience last year after telling that story that kind of connects the two.
All right. I don't know whether you ought to, if there's a way you can rush through the Clarity story.
Oh, trust me, I'll make it brief, sir.
All right, go.
Basically, about 14 years ago, I moved down to Grapevine, Texas. Went to a party with a friend of mine. Met a very nice young lady by the name of Clarity. I'd always taken the same route back home to Grapevine, but for some reason that night, when I took her home, who supposedly she lived pretty close to where I lived in Grapevine, I wound up getting lost and wound up driving actually north to Oklahoma. So on the way there, we took a right turn and wound up in Denton, Texas that night. And she suddenly told me that she used to live there, and she told me, she kind of directed me around inside Denton, Texas, and we wound up in an apartment building. And I thought, she said she had some friends there, so I thought we were going to get a telephone or something like that, try to find some directions home. Mm-hmm. Well, suddenly we get out of the car, and there's a big hill on the left-hand side there. And she goes, let's go over the hill. I want to show you something. And I said, okay, I'm kind of curious. It's about 3 a.m. in the morning, really pretty girl, so I'm pretty much up for anything right now.
Yeah, you're thinking, I'm going to get lucky.
Exactly, sir.
I gotcha.
Yeah, it was tricks of lights and shadows, so I figured no problem. So we went over the hill, and suddenly I'm looking at a graveyard, and I've never been one to be doing the graveyard for fun type thing, but I'm kind of up for anything at this point.
So you're thinking she's really a fox. Let's see.
Exactly. At this point, I'm pretty much signing my my truck over, so I'm like, no problem. So we're walking in, and there's a really huge stone gate, and on the right-hand side, it was it almost looked like it had been hit by a tornado or something like that, but it was just demolished. Well, I didn't really say much about it because she kind of wandered in, and we were looking around, and suddenly I'm standing there, and it gets an extremely dead still Texas night, and there's a full moon out, and I love full moons, Art, and I'm looking up at the full moon, and she's standing behind me, and suddenly to the left of me, I see 7 white birds, and they're all connected by the wing, and they're just floating up towards the moon, and I'm like, really, I'm watching this thinking, this is totally beautiful, I'm just, I'm in awe, and suddenly from behind me, she starts speaking about Bible prophecy and about the 7 birds that will return her home, and as I'm looking up at the moon, and I'm looking at the birds, and I'm listening to her talk about the prophecy of the 7 birds and the returning home. As the word home trails off, sir, I look around and suddenly she's gone. And at this point, I was
going to say, probably at that point you were thinking, not so lucky.
No, definitely. Sobriety had now entered me 100%. I'm fully.
Let me get this moment again. She began talking as the 7 birds were flying. It was beautiful, full moon. She started talking about Bible prophecy.
Yes,
right?
Sir.
And the next second?
As the word home, as she's saying return home, trails off, I look around and I turn exactly to where she was standing. She is completely gone. I do a hard target search of the place because I'm still a gentleman. I'm not going to bail on her. But yet I'm looking hard, I'm looking low, and I'm thinking, well, maybe she just went, returned home, or maybe went to a friend's house. Well, as I find out later, she truly did return home. Because about 2 years later, I come back to the same place in Denton, Texas, and I go up to a Texaco just right down the corner. And I'm talking to the guy at the counter, and I'm saying, boy, I had kind of a strange experience back then. And he goes to relate the story about this girl who, I guess a couple of her friends got into their dad's pickup truck, drove over the hill, wound up crashing into that very stone gate that I saw earlier before that was destroyed, and wound up getting killed on her prom night. And I'm thinking to myself, truly she had returned home. Well, here's the kicker, Art. I told you this story about a year ago at the same time.
That's right.
Well, there was a tremendous Texas storm at this time. I'm in Grapevine, Texas. I put the phone down. The moment, sir, I put the phone down, I look up. Across the street, I have a clear view of a transformer. A bolt of lightning hits the transformer, blows the transformer into it looked like the movie The Natural. Suddenly, boom, the lights go out. As I lay down the phone, I look across, and all you see is the moon. The moonlight goes inside the window. I look up, and I see 5 people standing inside my room. But yet, it looks like 3 women and 2 small children, and they're not there, but they're there. And it's like one of those adages. I've always felt that we're all surrounded by several different people in some sense, either from our past or present. Mm-hmm. And at that point, when I put that phone down, the bolt of lightning, the moonlight, boom, I look up, and I wasn't shocked. It seemed like I almost accepted the fact that I'm an only child, but I never felt alone all my life.
Wow. Now that all this has happened, obviously you're a believer in what?
Well, all my life sir, I believe we've all been connected by one way or another, and I think what it goes to show you is that we're just not here to be, put in a box and put away. I think we connect from our past and our present, and if we truly do connect, I think we'll definitely get more clarity for the future.
Clarity. I appreciate the call, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. I agree with that man. Don't you? Are we all here just to trot around in this mindless maze that's life on Earth and then get put in a box or get reduced to ashes? And that's all there is? I don't think so. I think the stories that you're hearing prove it. Not singly, not any one of them, but the evidence is absolutely cumulative. We are not just biological entities. We are more than that. And that's what you're hearing. East of the Rockies, you're on the air. Hi.
Good morning, Art.
Good morning. Where are you?
Tulsa, Oklahoma.
Tulsa. Good. Yeah. Glad to have you.
Yeah, glad to be here. Hope you and your wife feel better.
Thank you.
My job takes me around the country, all over the country. My wife and I have lived here in Tulsa for the last year.
Right.
My immediate family lives in Montana. My mom, my brother and sister, nieces and nephews. For 2 weeks in November, I was in Oklahoma City. It was the day after the election. I stayed up all night watching the election returns. So the next night I was tired, so I go to bed early, about 8:30.
Sure.
About 4 hours later, I'm awakened by someone in my hotel room. The room is completely black. I know there's a female figure in the room next to my bed. It's walking or by my bed. I know the presence is there. As I'm trying to figure out why that person is in there, I was thinking maybe it was the maid or something. Maybe I had been dreaming or waking up early and the maid was in the room.
It wasn't Al Gore saying, Florida's mine, Florida's mine, right?
I don't think it was.
All right.
Didn't appear that way. But as I'm trying to, as I see this figure, I turn around and look, and this face appears comes toward me. It's a female face.
A face.
Comes toward me. Doesn't say anything, or at least I'm not hearing anything.
Yes.
And it comes toward me and then fades back.
Can you make out any detail?
Well, not at that time, but I relate the story to the guys I worked with the next day. And I'm saying, well, maybe it was my sister, or I thought, well, maybe the room's haunted or something, or maybe it was the maid or something, or I was dreaming or something.
Yes.
But anyway, that was Thursday. That was a late Wednesday night. The next day, I relate the story. Friday morning, I get a call from my wife saying, I have some bad news, that my niece has died. She committed suicide. Well, I find out, and I didn't connect it at the time, but I'm thinking, and I tell the guys this, well, maybe that was my niece that came to the room. So I go back to Montana for the funeral. I'm one of the last persons to view my niece before the funeral, and it was that face that I saw.
Long time, and they wanted someone who would appreciate the home, and so my daughter got it, and they'd been in it about 5 months, and I went out to visit, and I hadn't been in the house 5 minutes. My daughter was helping me bring my suitcases up to the bedroom that they decided to put me in, and I walked into the bedroom, and I got the hair standing up on the back of the neck, etc. And I turned to her and I said, I hate to tell you this, but there's somebody in this room. And she just went, oh, Mom. She said, I told her husband when they had moved in there, I got the story then.
Oh, no, you can feel it. I mean, you said the hair on the back of your neck stood up.
Yeah.
You absolutely can feel it. I've had that happen to me, and you're never wrong.
No, I know it.
If the hair on the back of your neck stands up,
yeah.
Something's happening big time.
There's somebody there.
Yep.
So anyway, so she tells me what's been happening the 5 months. They had not told anyone this, and since they had moved in, they especially in the evening after they'd put their young daughter to bed, they would hear somebody walking in the upstairs hall. And originally, of course, they would think that their daughter had gotten up and was walking around, and so they'd holler up the stairs like good parents, and then somebody'd go up to put her back to bed, and
Sure.
she'd be sound asleep.
Sure.
And they would have doors opening, particularly in that upstairs hall, and things like that going on. And so they wondered, and she knew, because I sense these things, she knew that I'd know if there was somebody actually in the house. And so So I stayed in that room. Of course, they put me in the room that they thought she belonged in.
You stayed there, huh?
I stayed in that room, and I was there for about 3 weeks, and it was okay. When I encounter something like this, I talk to them, and I didn't have any problems. Well, after about 3 weeks, my guy flew out and joined us, and the first night that he spent in the room, I woke up in the middle of the night, and she was right in his face. She was leaning over the bed and within inches of his face. Now, I normally do not see them. I usually just feel them.
Oh, my. Could you clearly see this?
No, not clearly. But it was like, when you just, it's like out of the corner of your eye. But, when you just wake up, sometimes you can see what you don't see when you're fully conscious.
Yes, of course, yes.
And I could see this.
Well, obviously, then, you had made your peace with this entity.
Or she wasn't that bothered. She wasn't bothered by me. She wasn't really bothered by them in the house. She just did her thing. She wandered around and opened doors and things like that. My granddaughter had been sleeping in that room just before I came. My daughter said, well, we're moving her out. You can stay in that room. Well, they were moving her out because she'd wake up screaming in the middle of the night.
I've got you, but go back to this moment. I mean, here's this entity leaning over,
leaning over him, and I woke up, I sensed this, saw this, and got first very scared, and then, which I don't think of myself as a very possessive person, but I got angry. It was like, this is my guy. Get out of here. I got angry, and that
was almost jealousy.
Yeah, and it was like, well, I didn't know what she would do. I knew, for some reason, I knew very quickly upon going to the house that it was a woman, and she liked doors open, she liked the room neat, stuff like that. I just had a sense about it, but I didn't realize she was not happy with him being there.
He's messy. Let's rip this messy guy's kidney out.
She didn't want him in the room. She didn't want him there, and I didn't know what she would do, so I got angry and essentially just said, back off. So I just told her, I said, I calmed down, I started talking to her and said, look,
My guy.
Yeah, my guy, leave him alone. We're only here for a short visit. We'll be gone soon. If you back off and leave us alone, I will leave the door open, I will keep the room neat, etc., the little things that she liked, and if not, you will have me to deal with.
All right.
Not that I knew what I would do.
Yep.
But
tough lady.
But I was angry.
All right. Well, I appreciate the story.
Okay.
Thank you.
Anyway, we found out later who it actually was a woman, the last of the family that owned the house, had died in the house.
I see. Well, listen, if something like this happened, I'd like to have somebody like you around. Get the hell out of here. Thank you very much.
Bye.
East of the Rockies, you're on the air. Good morning. Hello there.
Hello.
Yes, you're on the air, sir.
Oh, this is Mark from Richmond, Virginia.
Hi, Mark.
Good morning. I hope I can be as eloquent as your other speakers. It's kind of weird. Synchronicity, I guess. I'm a little bit early here, a little bit 6 minutes early. You were talking about red-eyed monster stories. You'd like to hear it?
Not monsters. I mean, you could think of them that way. What I said was, in the next hour, I wanted to get stories from people who saw what obviously is an evil entity. And to me, the scariest description of evil are these glowing red eyes that so many people have seen.
What happened to me, I was sleeping in a twin bed by myself, and I thought I was in a dream state, a lucid dream. I mean, because I could picture the bed and picture the wall, everything was as it was. And I noticed at the foot of the bed a figure, and the only way I could make out that it was a figure, the room was dark here. I mean, no night lights or anything, but, and I've heard you mention this before, but honest to goodness, this is truth. The only reason I could make it out because it was blacker than
black
than the room itself.
I understand.
And it had, I really couldn't make out any features initially because it had like a loose-fitting dark black shroud.
Oh, great.
Around it.
Yeah.
You know, if you've seen commercials for like the Grim Reaper or whatever.
Yes.
Sort of like that. And I thought I was dreaming. I'm still not sure exactly what was going on. And so I said, well, I'll just have this dream and take it on by myself, you know, and fight this entity.
Yes.
And kind of going one-on-one there for a minute. And all of a sudden, I had the sensation of being lifted off the bed.
Were you in fact?
He doesn't remember me. Oh, what else? Anyway. But then I wasn't planning on interviewing someone that night. I finally said, "Are you the one that dropped the water on me?"
And?
The answer was yes. One of the things was that he said that he was trying to get to the other side and needed help. It came out that he and I had come from the East Coast in another life.
All right, so the tears then were a kind of a plea to help, plea for help to get to the other side, right?
To get me to go to that meeting.
To get you to go to the right. But the ultimate plea, though, was to help that entity go through.
Right.
Okay, I think I've got it. Thank you. Tears from nowhere. That entity wanted help to get to the other side. Which means that entities are trapped here. Obviously, then, for a period of time, ranging from, no doubt, almost a non-existent amount of time to forever. First time caller line, you're on the air. Hi.
Hi, this is Elizabeth in Medford.
Hi, Elizabeth.
Hello, you'll have to pardon me, I'm starting to get the flu too, so if I sound funny, that's why. I have a story about I guess you'd have to say malevolent spirit that caused people to get physically and go emotionally ill.
You mean permanently, emotionally?
Well, until they left the house. But the people who were living in the house, we moved into it when I was about, I was about 8 or 9 years old, in 81, and it was in Newcastle, Indiana, on what we figured out was Indian burial grounds. They had built attractive houses that were perfectly lined up, step down, step down, step down, and
right.
We didn't think anything of it at first, but my mom's boyfriend, over the course of living there, started to act really weird. Well, we didn't think much about it because, you know, sometimes that happens. But our next door neighbor was what proved it out. It was a nice little young family, a husband and a wife, and a little boy. Well, as soon as they moved in next door, they started having weird things happening. Toilets flushing by themselves, cats tracking things across the room that nobody else could see, cold hands on people's shoulders, just weird stuff. But nothing you could put your finger on, really. And then their little boy got sick with something that couldn't get diagnosed. At first they thought he had anything from leukemia to cat scratch fever. It was something to do with his immune system, but he was getting sicker and sicker by the day.
Gotcha. Didn't
know what was wrong with him. And on top of that, their marriage was completely disintegrating. Well, you could chalk that up to just having a bad marriage. But they moved out. They said, you know, their marriage broke up, they left. Well, that you could have just left that as a coincidence. Well, the next people that moved in, a wife, a husband, a little boy, same thing happened. As soon as they moved in, the little boy started to get ill. And the husband and the wife started fighting. Well, she was a bit more open-minded, and we had talked to her. My mom was open to ghost stories and things like that, and had told her about the previous couple. Well, she said, there's this room that every time I go into it, I want to just about kill my husband. If I go in there, I feel like if we're even sitting in there having a good time, I want to just beat him up.
Rage.
Yeah. And so she ended up being a good friend of my mom's, and she let my sisters use the house for their prom date after the prom, because the high school was right across the way. It was a 4-way stop.
Sure.
And they ended up in the TV room, which was the room where the arguments happened. Well, they had no knowledge about this because my mom didn't tell them. She didn't want to scare them. And their prom date went from being a happy, regular boy-girl thing.
The way it ought to be, yeah.
Yeah, to just complete hatred among all the couples. All the men and women ended up fighting, didn't tell each other about it until later. This all came out later on, that this room was the focus of the rage. And the nearest that we could figure out was, because it was all focused on men, the women felt angry, but the men were the ones that seemed to suffer from it. I mean, they went from being normal, happy-go-lucky.
It happens that way so frequently.
Yeah, normal, happy-lucky guys, but then all of a sudden they just got dark.
Yes.
They got dark, and they got depressed, and they got sick, and the little boys got sicker and sicker and sicker. Well, finally she's like, if this is the precedent set here, I'm leaving. I'm not sticking around for this. And she left the house. Well, her kid got better. By then the marriage was over, but, there was nothing that they could do about it by then. Well, every person that has moved into that house since then, she's kept up with it, has had the same problem. And the only thing that we could figure out is that something must have happened to a woman. Because the focus, I lived in the house, my mom lived in the house, my 2 sisters. We never had anything weird happen to us other than some odd ghostly things, but nothing dark and evil. But
something bad happened to some woman.
Something bad, and she was angry about it and taking it out on the men living there. And when I was a little kid, I wouldn't go to bed in my house by myself in that house. I had to have somebody come with me and stay with me till I was asleep. The day we moved out of that house, we moved into a Victorian across town, which in and of itself looked like a scary house. But I got up when it was time for me to go to bed, walked upstairs, went to bed. No questions asked. Just did it all by myself.
Mm-hmm.
And the next day, my mom sat me down, and she's like, well, honey, why did you do that? You usually have me come and stay up there. I said, we lived in a bad house, Mom. This is a good house. This doesn't have anything in it.
That is some story. That's really some story. I appreciate your call.
Well, thank you.
Thank you. Can you imagine that? What is that? Is that an entity remaining, injecting its hatred into everybody who occupies the room? Or again, is it some sort of echo of hatred, memory of hatred, some kind of living memory, whether it's a living person who was there or somebody who's passed away? Is that hatred then infecting everybody who occupies the same space? So does that mean then that entities or just this raw hatred can occupy a place forevermore or until released? I don't know. There are so many questions generated by stories like this. Wildcard line, you're on the air. Hi.
Is that me?
That's you.
Hi, my name's Barbara. I'm calling from the Enumclaw, Washington.
Welcome.
When I was 17, my mother died very unexpectedly. In fact, she was out of the country, and I received a phone call saying, well, she's dead. And I grieved painfully for her, and I grieved for not ever having the chance to say goodbye to her. And about 6 months after she died, I was physically becoming ill. I lost a tremendous amount of weight, took a lot of drugs, drank a lot, and was basically self-destructing. And I was over at a friend's house in the middle of the afternoon, sitting on their bed, and I looked up and I saw my mother walking towards me down a staircase. And she looked radiant. She actually looked younger and thinner and healthier than I could recall her ever looking. She looked beautiful.
Yes.
And I jumped up to run and embrace her, and she said, I'm sorry, but this is taking so much of my energy to appear to you that you can't put your arms around me, but you can talk to me. So I was telling her how much I missed her, and she said she was aware of that and that I needed to stop grieving, and she was in a much better place. And then she asked me, would I like to come with her?
To that place?
to the place where she was now in order to...
All right, we're at a break point here. I have to break, so hold it right...
Energies.
Maybe.
Maybe it was the same, and it was just playing tricks on me because, you know.
That's what they do.
And I hadn't been drinking.
I'm with you. All right. All right, thank you very much. It seems to happen to those who drink and snort and smoke, as well as those who are stone cold sober. So make of that what you will. West of the Rockies, you're on the air. Good morning.
Hello.
Hello.
Hi. Well, I have a very scary story that I've had a lot of not so scary ghost encounters since, but this particular one happened when I was probably about 16 or 17 years old.
Mm-hmm.
And I had a friend who was really afraid of, I guess she'd seen The Exorcist or something, and she was horrified at the prospect of ever being possessed.
Of course.
And, you know, she was very rigidly Catholic, and I was not really all that paranoid about that. And I said, well, you know, I believe in God strongly enough that if Satan ever came after me, I'd know I'd win. And I went to bed that night.
Mm-hmm.
And I used to kind of meditate to go to sleep. And so I kind of, you know, meditated to go to sleep. I was very into stuff like that. And I remember just kind of getting down a nice, quiet, calm place. And I felt something cold above me. Icy.
Above you.
Above me.
You know, there are a lot of people, my dear, who say that meditation opens the door.
Well, I know that now. I didn't really know that then. I was only about 16 or 17. I'm in my late 30s now.
And for some reason, 16 or 17-year-old girls are particularly subject to this sort of thing. We don't know why. Anyway, something cold above you.
Something cold, and I think you have a lot of energy then.
Yeah.
You're very young and fresh, and I, you know, I looked up. I opened my eyes. Now I know I wasn't asleep. You know, I've thought about this hundreds of times. I wasn't asleep. There on my ceiling, between myself and my ceiling, which was like a normal 8-foot high ceiling.
Yes.
Over my bed was this green, glowing green thing. It looked like a big amoeba, but it was black in the center, and as it got from the center outwards, which was probably the width of my bed or thereabouts, it got tinged with yellow and then green. It was like a fluorescent amoeba around the edges.
Starting to sound like something from Ghostbusters.
Oh, no, the Ghostbusters was tame. I looked at this thing and it looked like it was pulsating. And in my head, I heard this voice. And it was so metallic. It was, we need you, we need you, we need you.
We need you.
It was so metallic that it sounded like a machine had generated, like, you know, you pick up the phone and it's the operator and it says to put in the number or whatever, and it's very generated.
Yes, oh yes, of course.
And I was so terrified. And so I said, oh, God, and I tried to pray. Does that make sense?
It makes sense to me.
I couldn't pray. And I felt myself get sucked out, like out of my head, out of my body. And I felt myself go into this black void. And I just, I couldn't do anything. I thought, oh, my God, where am I going? And then I just got, no way. I'm not going to there's no way. The thought was just no way. And I was back in my room. My room was cold. I remember I got up. My parents were still up in the other room. And I walked out. I'm like, oh, you know, I just had this. And of course, they didn't believe me. But
they didn't believe you?
Oh, no.
But they didn't hear, we need you.
No, they didn't. But that area has had a lot of activity, of different types of activity. And, you know, we've since then seen things in my dad's house and, you know, different things. But it's definitely, I think what I did was I challenged something. And in the end, I think I won, but I was scarred for years from that. I couldn't meditate for years.
Come across with us.
That was sort of like what it was, only it was more metallic.
More
pretty scary.
Metallic, even more metallic. Come with us.
You got to change the pitch on that there, Art. Just kind of make it really metallic.
I don't know what to say about you. That's a scary one. All right. I appreciate it.
Thanks.
Thank you very much.
You're
Take care. First time caller line, you're on the air on Ghost to Ghost AM. Hello.
Good morning.
Good morning to you.
I have a pretty scary story for you.
All right.
I have not spoken of this in 20 years. Matter of fact, my friend and I, we haven't spoken of it at all in probably the last 10 years. We used to belong to one of the oldest deer hunting clubs here in South Carolina. And we were hunting with dogs this particular Saturday. Of course, this area is rich in Civil War history.
Sure.
Anyway, story short, we had collected our dogs that we were hunting with. It was getting pretty late in the evening, and we rounded this curve in the road. We were back in a very remote area that had only been hunted maybe twice in the last 10 years. We had around 18 head of dogs with us. These dogs stopped suddenly and doubled back, just startled, just doubled back. They stopped. They were barking, just jumping around, hair bristled, fangs pretty much bared, scared the hell out of us, and it was misty looking, but what we saw in the edge of the woods was what appeared to be three figures. And we kind of looked at each other like, okay,
Three figures.
Three figures. They appeared to be soldiers, like old Civil War soldiers, Confederate soldiers.
Really?
But you could not make out enough detail. When the reason we thought Confederate soldiers, because you could see the hats, the short-brimmed hats.
Gotcha.
Okay. But what happened, we just stood there frozen. I don't know about him. I was scared to death. But we heard just a low voice saying, "Leave us alone. Stay away. You're not wanted here."
Oh, that'd do it for me.
And this gets very freaky. This was repeated 3-4 times. We took off in a dead run. Our truck was around the other side around this long curve. It felt like we had concrete blocks strapped to our feet. But could not get the truck doors open. When I got on my side, I could not get it open.
Yes, sir.
And we both hit the ground. I felt just an enormous heat come over me. Started vomiting, projectile vomiting, trembling, and still heard the voice saying, "You're not wanted here. Stay away. Leave us alone." This went on, I'm guessing, probably 15, 20 minutes, till finally we were able to get up, regain our composure, and get in the truck. We left dogs and everything.
You left the dogs?
We left the dogs. The dogs have no part of this. They were gone.
Uh-huh.
And I know this may sound amusing on one hand, but believe me, it was very terrifying. We got into the truck, got completely out of the hunting. It was about 5 miles back to the main highway. And we had to stop several times. It's only a 30-mile trip from our club back into the city of Columbia. We had to stop several times, in fear of wrecking. And we were both very sick, very ill.
So this was no dream.
This was no dream.
This was no dream state. This was
not alcohol-induced. This was not a redneck club. This club was comprised of doctors, lawyers, law enforcement personnel. My pastor was the president of it.
Well, one good thing, sir, you can follow directions. I have a feeling if you had not gotten out of there, you probably wouldn't be here now.
Well, I will say this to you, that the story goes that, see, our clubhouse is sitting on what is considered the old Sumter Highway.
Tell you what, can you hold?
I certainly can.
All right, stay right there.
Describe it. And I would put the books down.
So was it ever so annoyingly hot that you would intentionally call on whatever this was to get it cold?
That's a good idea. I'll think about that this summer when our electric bill comes in.
Yeah.
And I would put it down, and then I would go look through the Bible to see what kind of scriptures that said, and then, it would, dissipate. And then every time I would go read these books, it would get absolutely so cold. And I just thought, I didn't think anything about it, well, except for cool, I was ignorant, I guess. I didn't really think anything about it. I guess after a week, I was reading, and I kept feeling like there was something watching me, following me around, and it would just be a really weird presence in the house. My husband was working, the baby would be napping, or he would look at something like he was like a cat tracked something, and he would start crying. And I would think, what is going on? And this would go on, and then I was at the kitchen sink. It's an old house, you know, with the window, those old, neat, deep sinks. I was washing dishes, and I wasn't thinking about anything that I was reading. It was just a very hot, sultry day, and all of a sudden, Art, I felt these very thick, cold, icy fingers touch my shoulders, move up to my neck, wrap around my neck, and gave me a gentle squeeze.
Oh, my God.
That's about what I said, too. And it scared me. I don't remember what I did. I think I was too scared to even say, oh, God. I just could not move. And there was this always when I would feel like something was following me, and especially at that time when those icy fingers touched me, there would be this awful kind of like boiled egg smell in the house.
Rotten eggs, yes.
Yeah, rotten eggs, right.
Sulfur, actually.
Sulfur, that's right. But that was the most empty, void of any kind of compassion, light, or whatever evil sensation I have ever felt.
Yeah, well, after hearing your whole story, I'd rather suffer the heat.
Yeah, really, that's why we probably won't, call on that thing this summer. But when you have a toothache, you know how it hurts so bad you don't know how you think, gosh, is my jaw that deep?
Right.
That's how cold I felt, so deep inside my soul. I didn't realize that I was really that thick. It was so deep. Well, after that, I thought, forget this noise. So I took all those books, I took them to the patio, put them in our hibachi, and I torched the things.
Wow.
And I have never had anything happen like that since. Not like, we've had things happen, but not like that, not evil.
Well, that sure is some story, man.
Well, thank you for the time.
Take care, Deb.
Oh, you too. Bye-bye.
Bye. All right, well, so then, is it an entity that was attached to those books? Could some of those books just have been inherently evil in some manner? A cold thing that would eventually reach up and grip your neck? I don't blame her. I would have burned them too. East of the Rockies, you're on the air. Hi.
Hi, Art. How are you?
I'm all right, sir. Where are you?
I'm in Nashville. My name's Jeff.
Yes, sir.
I guess what my story kind of starts. I was in 6th grade, and I have a younger brother, who's about 18 months younger than me, and we used to visit an elderly couple in an old house that was next door to us. It was a small town, and our house sat beside this old house, and then right beside it was a big church, and we used to go there every day, basically, just to catch up with them, tell them how our day was and everything. And every time we were over there, we only stayed in the kitchen of the house. But every time we were over there, there would be a door that would slam, and it would come from upstairs. And we didn't think anything of it, my brother and I. It just, but one of the couple would always go upstairs after the door had slammed. And they're the only two that lived in the house, and they were always in the kitchen with us when it happened. And I didn't think anything of it. And I was upstairs only once in the house, and the elderly man was giving me some stamps, and it happened that the door slammed again while we were up there. And it kind of was like, well, it's an old drafty house. It kind of looked like one of the like from a Scooby-Doo mansion, Yes. It was so, it was almost like the rest of the house outside of the kitchen was modern, but the rest of the house just absorbed light. It was so dark. The wood was so dark, and
sure,
it was kind of creepy, but, I never felt ill at ease there. But, I got into high school, and I was at a hayride, and one of the girls who was out of high school knew most of the folklore about the town, and she was telling us that there was house next to a church in town where someone had committed suicide. And, yeah. And I was like, well, which church? Because there was about 3 churches in there. And she told me it was the Presbyterian church, and sure enough, that was the house that I used to live next door to and would go to every day and, hear this door slam upstairs. And oh man, this is where it gets a little creepy. One Halloween, we had taken pictures outside of me and my brother and my younger sister out in the yard with that house in the background.
Right.
And we had a strange occurrence on the film itself. It looked like, you know what a double exposure looks like.
Of course.
But, oh man, it's creeping me out.
What was it that you saw in that photograph?
There was, it was a picture of me and my brother and my sister.
Right.
And it was like our body or our presence had shifted all the way over and away from where that room is in the background of the picture, and our presence had kind of shifted over away from ourselves. It was, but that our bodies were the only thing that were double exposed that looked double exposed in the picture, and it was a little vaporous kind of thing going on there too. It was and we'd taken like 3 pictures outside that day of us in our Halloween outfits, and the one with the room in the background was the only one that was different.
Well, then I've got to ask you the same thing. Do you still have the photograph?
I believe my mother has it, and I think she has a scanner, so I'll have her look for that, and I'll send it to you.
Boy, we live in some day and age, don't we, when Mom has a scanner.
Yeah, I'm telling you.
Well, all right, I appreciate your call and your story, and I wish we had more time, folks, but we are out of time, as it were. Sorry about that. It always rushes by. Ghost to Ghost is, as I said, something we're going to be doing more of during the year than just, at Halloween, because it's so interesting and because things are changing out there. We're beginning to, we're getting close to a big change. Don't you think? I do. Have a good night, everybody, and tomorrow night is going to be very, very interesting. Brittany Petros from Big Brother is going to be here, and then we're going to have a guest on reality TV. It's going to be a different kind of night, but I think you're going to enjoy it. I'm Art Bell from the high desert, the desert of the sea. Good night.
Friday, they say. Yes, indeed. From the island of Guam, out the west, or is it the east? Eastward to the Caribbean and the U.S. Virgin Islands, south into South America, north all the way to the pole, and worldwide on the internet. This is Coast to Coast AM. Good evening, victims. That's what you all are, is victims. Right? There is no question in my mind, nor has there been for years, about the existence of ghosts. I know there are ghosts. And I think most of you, the majority of you actually, know there are ghosts too. So every now and then we stop what we're doing, whatever that is. What is it we do here anyway? Anyway, we every now and then stop and we do what we call Ghost to Ghost instead of Coast to Coast. Actually, it's the same thing, just new name. And we tell ghost stories all night long. Now, you may hear it in my voice, but if you would like to see it in my face as well, then you're going to want to be absolutely certain you check out tonight's webcam photo, which I took just a very few moments ago. That'll show you. It'll absolutely demonstrate to you what my mood is like. You'll be able to see my mood like that. It's my webcam shot. You know, you go to my webpage, go to program. No. You don't go to program. How do you get there? Let's see. Good. Now I can't even operate my own computer. Here we go. Program and Art Bell Studio Cam. Yes, indeed. Took that a few minutes ago. That'll set the mood for you, all right. I would like to welcome WTSLAM in Lebanon, New Hampshire. Or is it New Hampshire? No, it's New Hampshire. Technically, it's probably New Hampshire, right? 1400 on the dial there. Yo to Sean Baker, the PD. Little do you know what you're in for, Sean. It's going to get a little rough. It always does on these nights. All we do is tell real ghost stories. And, you know, there are a few rules to what we're going to do tonight. Let me lay those down now, all right? Only serious, interesting, scary ghost stories need apply. They're all by phone. Unless you consider yourself to have, because there's as many of you out there as there are ghosts. And a million ghost stories in the night. So only the premium ghost stories need apply. I mean, they've got to be good. So that's rule 1. Rule 2 is, for God's sakes, turn down your radio. Okay? But that's always a rule. Then there's rules about, boy, we have a lot of rules, huh? Ghost photos. Yes, we will accept ghost photographs, as I think now we have I think we have the best collection of ghost photographs on the web. If not, then we're certainly getting close, to the best. And that's thanks to all of you. The same ones that are going to provide the quality ghost stories tonight, I would like to provide quality ghost photos as well. So only the good ghost photos need apply. Now, what does that mean? That means any obvious cigarette smoke ghost photos are out. They've got to be better than that. That means a ghost photo with a camera strap blurring the front doesn't count either. Occasionally we get the real thing. Last night, the night before. It was the night before. Somebody led me to, I think it's the 5th page in the gallery. A ghost photos, 5th page, I think. And there's this picture of this, God almighty, there's an arm coming right out of the television. And it looks, if it's a fake, it's a really, really, really good fake. If it's not a fake, it's everybody's nightmare. I mean, it's just everybody's nightmare. You look at that picture, some caller led me there, and, I slowly, ploddingly made my way there on my own website, and I got to that one, and I went, oh my God, look at that. And I'd never seen it. I guess it's been up there for a while, but I hadn't seen that particular one. That's a real heart stopper. Absolutely no question about it. So we want only quality ghost photos sent to webmaster@artbell.com. That's Keith. He is standing by to review and judge your photograph. And if it's up to par, if it's really scary, we're going to put it up tonight. In fact, we've already got new ghost photos up there for you right now. as the collection continues to grow. I mean, there is no doubt. There is simply no doubt in my mind about the fact that ghosts are real. They are. They're as real as we are. There may be questions about what a ghost is, whether it's a human soul trapped here. Surely sometimes it is, right? Human souls do apparently, for at least a period, if not longer, get trapped here on Earth. And then there may be the memory, the sort of, well, I don't even know what the right phrase would be. The memory that I don't know what it is that's left of a person when their soul has departed, but something that seems to stick around. Maybe that means we have more components than we thought we had. I mean, soul goes this way. The lingering memory of the person goes that way. I don't know. Have you ever thought about that? We may have more components than you thought. Oh, this is really good for any program you do up here. This way of coming back into the show. It's good for any program you do. All right, so you know what we're going to do tonight? It's going to be ghosts all night long. Shall we experiment? You always got to get warmed up in this biz, so let's see. All we're taking are ghost stories tonight. That's it. Got one to tell? Good one? Fine. All other matters are verboten. East of the Rockies, you're on the air. Good morning.
Good morning, Art.
Hi.
Calling from Winnipeg, Manitoba, Canada.
Canada, yes, sir.
See you on CJOB here.
Right.
Anyways, I don't know if I met a ghost or a time traveler, but this is one freaky tale, let me tell you.
Well, just sort of lay it out for me real quickly if you can, and I'll try and make a judgment.
Every summer I go and I live in a tent in a campground. One night I'm sitting there listening to a football game. This guy rides up in an old Indian motorcycle.
Mm-hmm.
He had skin that looked like leather. He had Texas plates on his bike.
Yeah, a lot of them in Texas look like that.
He had 2 stickers on the fender skirts. One said America, land of the free, as long as you do what you're told. The other one had a picture of Mount Rushmore and a picture of Reagan smiling with a tooth that was sparkling. And it said, don't believe any of them. Anyways, we're sitting there talking. I gave the guy supper.
If you're going to give me this kind of detail all the way through, we don't have enough show to do this.
Okay, anyways, we get talking and comparing countries, this and that. Told me that they never really did land on the moon.
Americans never landed on the moon?
He said that.
Uh-huh.
He said not only that, he said Apollo 13 didn't happen the way it said. There was no accident in space. I asked them why this would happen. They said, he said the country's morale was down, Vietnam War. He said, if you look at when they came back to the planet, the whole world stopped, sat on their seat, on the edge of their seat, and held their breath.
Mm-hmm.
He said they done it for financing, and they done it for the morale of the country. Anyways, he went on and on. I asked him what he done. He told me he was a history teacher, and he kind of grinned and gave a belly laugh. He started telling me all these tales. And sometime I got up, went to use the outhouse that was about 200 feet from my tent. I came back, he was gone. I never heard the bike. I asked my neighbor beside me. He never seen the guy all night. Nobody in the campground seen this guy.
So you think that he was the ghost of America? Really?
I don't know if he was
teaching you history the way it really was versus the present matrix that we all live in, right?
I don't know if he was a ghost or a time traveler or what he was.
It's close enough. I'll accept that. That's a fair medium call. Ghost or time traveler, who knows? Matrix Traveler. How about that? West of the Rockies, you're on the air. Good morning.
Yes, sir. Oh, man, I'm glad I made it there. Yeah, I'd like to speak to Mr. Art Bell.
This is Mr. Art Bell.
Hi, sir. How are you?
What can I do for you? Do you have a ghost story?
Yes, I do. I guess it was back in 93. I was in a 7-Eleven. There was just 3 people in this 7-Eleven store, me and 2 people. 2 people came in front of me, and they were going through the yard, where the milk and the soda pops are.
Yes.
And,
generally, yes.
Anyway,
up against the wall, usually.
But anyway, these 2 people looked they were dressed in rag clothes, and they were just a few feet in front of me, and all of a sudden I heard this voice out of nowhere. It says, "Only fools pay." And I was just looking around, and there was nobody there that said that. And
maybe it was a voice in your own head.
Yeah, only fools pay.
Right. It was only fools pay, trying to talk you into copping a soda pop or God knows what else. See, could have been your own inner voice tempting you. The little guy that sits over on the... does he sit on the bad one, sit on the right or the left? Then there's a good one. But the good one doesn't get to speak up that much. That sounds like the bad one.
Only fools pay in 7-Eleven. Take it, bud, and run.
First-time caller line, you're on the air. Hello.
Hello, Mr. Art. This is Frank. I'm calling from Orlando, and I'm listening to you on the Internet.
Yes, Frank.
This is quite a few years ago. I was actually pretty young, about 6 years old, 6 or 7. I lived in Long Island at the time. And I had an appearance of some type of apparition in my bedroom window. Stays with me today. I remember it as just like it happened yesterday.
What do you remember it looked like?
It was a definite female, a woman that appeared to be in her 30s. I remember that it was generally all one color, like a greenish or grayish color. And the best description that I can give of her, I could actually see an emotion on her face. It appeared that she looked at me with compassion. If I was to see it today, I wouldn't be frightened. But then I ran out of my room screaming. And I never told anybody about this until about the age of 25. I was mentioning it to my sister. At that point, she told me that she had also seen the same thing in our house.
Oh, no kidding. So
no kidding.
Whatever it was then was in the area of your house, and not just visiting you in particular, but...
I would imagine, it was not something that I saw all the time. It was just a one-time deal. My parents never mentioned anything of it, but we did move out of that house about a year afterwards, and the people who purchased the house from us moved out about 2 months afterwards. Now, I don't know if that's related or not.
I don't suppose when you sold that house that you disclosed to this happy little honeymooning couple that was going to get it next, that there was an entity in there that would tend to show up by your bed in your window at night.
Well, at the time, I wasn't old enough to have that kind of contact to give that information, but...
You mean you didn't say, Mommy, Daddy,
no.
You've got to tell them.
Well, actually, I have a grandmother who was babysitting that evening, and she does remember me running out of my room screaming. But,
oh, yes.
Yeah.
All right. I appreciate your call, sir. Thank you,
very
and take care. Yes? An entity. Well, what do we know about this? We know that ghosts, particularly those produced by suicides, especially suicides, and that is worrisome, seem to hang around the place where they committed suicide, where they took their own life. So I suppose, had you had a chance to, check into it a little bit, you might have found that somebody may have done themselves in on that property somewhere. These days, you've got to disclose that kind of thing when you sell a house. But you and I all know, we both know, don't we, that you would never disclose that, would you? And oh, by the way, you're buying an entity as well. It's in the house here. No, you're not likely to say that, are you? So, I wonder how frequently such a thing is invoked. I suppose when there's an official prior history of haunting. Now, how would you establish that? Well, newspaper articles, perhaps? I can see an attorney using that. You see, there was publicity about this house. Everybody knows there was something wrong, very, very wrong in this house. I have a way of knowing things. And I know this. If you have a really good ghost story, and you don't try to get through tonight, something really awful is going to happen to you. This has burdened you long enough. This is your opportunity for release by telling your story. And if you don't, it's not my responsibility. You've been warned. On the first-time caller line, you're on the air.
How you doing, Art?
Well, so far so good.
Before I tell you, can I ask you a question?
Possibly.
Do you know what lineage the Vikings were?
No.
I don't either, so I guess it's not going to help. But anyway, I don't really believe in ghost art, but I do believe in demonic manifestations. I believe there's familiar spirits which pose as people that we've known, which are actually demonic manifestations.
That is a really conservative religious viewpoint, isn't it?
Right. Mm-hmm. And I believe there's non-specific demonic
and you believe everything that would be that explains the millions of stories we can get on this program and elsewhere, and photographs, all of it is explained by the devil.
Well, yes, because the Bible points it out about familiar spirits, and of course...
And so, all right, fine. We'll go with what you believe your category to be.
But that doesn't mean... But I also believe that it...
I'm not going to argue it with you. You believe it. I've no...
Right.
Fine, I believe it. Just tell me, have you had an encounter with an evil, demonic spirit?
Absolutely. But let me just say that I believe that they could be interdimensional beings, too. That doesn't... because that's separate entities.
So you're a little open-minded.
Yeah, sure.
Right.
Sure.
Go ahead, tell your story.
Now, this comes with a parallel, too. Me and a friend both had this same experience at different times. It's pretty wild. Not only did we have the same experience, we had been friends for several years, and then all of a sudden we found out, while he was retracing his roots, that we had the same grandfather in Ireland, the same great-great-great-great-grandfather in Ireland, which was very weird because we're both from different areas of the country, and we met each other through work. But anyway... what happened one night is, I'll get right to the story, I woke up, and what I saw was really, really scary. There was a big entity in my room at the foot of my bed, and it was huge, and it had horns, great, huge horns on its head. And I'll get to the clincher of this in a minute. But it had great horns on its head, and it had red eyes, bright red eyes, and it was just standing there in my doorway.
Heat red eyes. Heat red eyes.
Right. Well, what I did is I said, of course, and I'm not really. I believe in the Bible and I believe in Christianity, but I'm not a big practicing Christian. But nevertheless, I said, in the name of Jesus, be gone. And the entity walked back through the door and faded away.
All right, and I've heard this a million times.
Well, here's the
I'm sorry. There's more.
Oh, it's much more to this.
I was just going to say though, and this will argue a little bit with your belief system, I know, but you might as well have said, in the name of Art Bell, the paranormal talk show host, be gone.
Well, that might have scared him too.
It might have, and it certainly would have told us a lot. Now, somebody out there should try. Now, I'm not going to be responsible for any lawsuit for any bloody popes just sort of lingering and soaking into the bed that are left after this is tried.
But there's a great other part of this story, though.
Yeah, go right ahead.
Me and my friend, we practice coffee drinking at restaurants late at night and talking about things, including your show.
Yes.
We like to talk about your show over coffee. But anyway, I told him about that experience one night. I told him, and he says, well, I had the same experience, the same thing. Yeah. And I said, did it have horns on its head? He said, yeah, and I said, something similar to you said, and it backed down the hallway. I didn't tell him one point of this. I said, well, tell me what it looked like. He said, well, the horns weren't really horns. It was like a Viking cap. And I looked at my friend and said, I did not tell you this part about it.
Yeah, the lineage.
Said, but that's what it was. It was a Viking cap. I didn't tell him that, but we both had the same experiences. He both said something similar, and his, instead of, just out of the room, his was in the hallway, and it walked down the hallway and disappeared. But it was like a huge Viking.
I'm with you all the way, and I can't think of anything that I would less like to see than something with glowing red eyes. That creeps me out. That always creeps me out. Glowing red eyes, I know, are bad. Very bad. No matter what other form the creature has, the glowing red eyes, oh, they're very bad. And by the way, just so there's no mistake about it, if I ever encountered one of these things and I had to invoke a name to get it gone, you can bet your bottom dollar it wouldn't be my name. You all want to try that, you go right ahead. Wildcard line, you're on the air. Hello.
Hello, Art.
Hi.
This is Robert, KFI in Los Angeles.
Yes, sir, the mighty KFI.
I have been haunted by the ghost of a dead cheerleader.
Whoa. Not as bad as a lot I hear about, sir.
Oh, yes. She died quite recently. She was murdered by a photographer, and the photographer was sentenced and convicted for murdering her.
Yes.
Remember this story?
No, but well, let's see, do I? I do remember. Anyway, it's not important. Go right ahead.
All right.
Dead cheerleader.
See, I had met her 5 years previously, but I was haunted by her in 1973 when I was in the Air Force. I would be in formation. There'd be several thousand of us in formation going to tech school, and all of a sudden, the entire formation was called to a halt while all the big NCOs and officers came up to look at me, and I'm standing there wearing a cute little cheerleader outfit with pom-poms in my hand, and my airman behind me is rubbing my behind. And after that, my life was a living heck, and I couldn't understand it. Anyway.
Well, I remember boot camp real well. And people like you, if you were really in that outfit, it's like you went home the next day. That was a ticket home. So there can't possibly be more to this story.
Oh, there's funny.
Well, there can't be, except to say that in boot camp, a lot of us in our mind's eye saw cheerleaders.
Mm-hmm.
Every day, in fact.
Uh-huh. Well, everybody saw one.
And there wasn't a woman around to be seen.
Anyways, my former commanding officer was Brigadier General Chuck Yeager. Shortly after that, he came down to interview me.
Why?
Because my commanding officer was friends with Yeager, and Yeager came to interview because he heard about it. This is about the time of the comet. This is about the time of the comet in 1973, and about the time Colonel Fox...
It never got that weird, sir. Never. Chuck Yeager had a lot of things to do with his time, but interviewing people who had donned cheerleading uniforms in basic training while getting fondled, that would not have been high on his list. I don't buy it, Monk. East of the Rockies, you're on the air. Hello.
Mr. Bell?
Yes.
Oh, sorry about that. It's a little slow on the trigger here. I'm not a Canadian, so... I really enjoy it. It must be Air Force night tonight. I'm retired Air Force.
Are you?
I was stationed at F.E. Warren Air Force Base the last few months I was in. And since I went retired on active duty, they gave me a position babysitting in the dormitories. The buildings at F.E. Warren are extremely old. They're from about after the Civil War. And I worked very late at night.
That really is old.
Yeah. Quite a nice base. But as I was sitting there, must have been about 3 in the morning, I had a Buffalo soldier report in. And
a Buffalo soldier?
Yeah, full regalia, buckskins, the hat, the pistols. Just terrified me.
You mean just came right up to you?
He came into my office.
Full form, not wispy or anything like a ghost, but just solid human?
No, he was solid to me, and then he left. He just disappeared. vaporized, I guess would be the best word for it.
In front of your eyes?
In front of my eyes. About 5 minutes after, everybody in the dormitory knew I'd seen him because it did scare me.
Well, there are two types after an experience like that. One is, like you, can't keep your mouth shut, going to have to tell everybody in sight just to feel better about it. And the other is, I'm never telling anybody about this. I'm going to go have a little nap, and I'm going to see if I feel better.
Well, I lived across the field from General Blackjack's old house, Blackjack Pershing.
Yes.
And there were reports of lights and stuff in that building, his old house. And I had never believed anything until that soldier reported to me. And
well,
that was amazing.
Here's something that I've thought an awful lot about, and that is battlefields. I, too, was in the Air Force to pile on here. And during Vietnam, and a lot of people died, and, you know, there are a lot of ghosts on battlefields, and I've been, if a ghost is really a human soul still here on Earth, then there would be, in my mind, zero righteousness in the world and a very unfair God to take any soldier who had died in defense of his country and keep him trapped, keep his soul trapped on Earth.
Yes.
How ultimately unfair would that be?
That would be a terrible, terrible afterlife.
Yeah, exactly right. Thank you very much. Terrible indeed. So, why then are battlefields littered with ghosts? What sort of God would allow that to occur? And the only answer you can really hope for here is that indeed it is not the soul, but some other component of what's left of you when your body is gone. West of the Rockies, you're on the air. Hello.
Hi, Art.
Hi.
This is Anita from Harrisburg, Oregon.
Hi there, Anita.
Hi. I have a kind of a freaky story to tell that happened to me. Actually, we've had several things happen to us in this house. And anyway, my husband and I had just watched a movie. It was the Amityville Horror. And we're getting ready for bed and went and got in. And I started getting this really icky feeling like something evil was in the room with me.
Yes.
And my husband had gone to sleep, and we had our 1-year-old son in the same room. And he started fussing and wouldn't settle down. And I was starting to doze off. Every time I doze off, I jump awake, like something kept bothering me, or, you know, and I had this real evil feeling. And about 3 o'clock in the morning, I had dozed off, and I jumped awake again because it felt like something had taken a finger and run across my feet at the end of the bed, and I heard a hiss. It was a hiss.
And you don't have cats?
No, we didn't have any cats.
Hisses are really bad.
Yeah, but I had the light on all night. I was laying there on my back, because, you know, so I could see all around the sides of me, and anyway, I was so scared. I didn't know what to do, so I said a quick prayer, and that feeling went away. And we finally,
whatever it was went away.
Yeah, it did. And my son settled down, and I settled down, and we slept the rest of the night. And
well, you know, I guess we've got to ask: is that really the power of God? Is the prayer the invocation of the Lord's name?
Yeah, but
if Jesus does that really drive these things away, or is it just the command, your mental command, to be gone?
Yeah, but before that, my husband had seen a big figure in our doorway of the bedroom. He just saw the form of it, and this was like probably a couple months before my experience. And then it went away, and then a couple nights later, he woke up, and it was right in his face. And he goes, "What do you want?" And it says, "I want you." And he just laid there. He was just frozen. And then I woke up too, and he was just drenched in sweat.
My God, you mean you both saw him, or you when you awoke, you saw him drenched in sweat, huh?
Yeah, he was all freaked out, and
I that's interesting, because I've never heard of anybody coming back from "I want you."
Yeah, I know. Well, when we moved into this house, we had to clean it out, and upstairs there were stacks and stacks of witchcraft books, and we kind of think that had something to do with it.
Do you know anything about the former tenants?
Not really. Just that they weren't very clean. We had to clean up the whole house.
And they obviously had a big interest in witchcraft.
Oh yeah, a big interest. And even my kids, when they were little, they slept up in that room where we cleaned the books out of. And my oldest son said he would see, well, he described them as white ladies dancing in the closet. And he said that they made kind of a growling sound.
Growling?
Yeah. Yeah, so we've had a lot of weird stuff happen here, but...
That's another thing that would be really upsetting to me, would be a female growling.
Yeah, yeah, and my older daughter had seen him too at the same time. So I knew that they, and they were totally serious.
That's even more serious. When you have, like, two witnesses, two family members who see the same thing at the same time, if that really happens, time to move out.
Well, actually, we had a house fire, and it burned the whole upstairs.
You're kidding.
Scorched it.
Did it really?
Yeah, and so my husband remodeled the whole house, and we tore the whole top of the house off completely. And ever since then, we have not had anything happen here in this house.
Well, I wonder, but what does that say?
I don't know. That's really, that's another thing I found really strange because, after the house fire, we rebuild the house and then nothing happens again.
So you burned the ghost out, or the ghost burned itself out. What caused the fire? Do you know?
Well, they think it was an extension cord, but they're not sure.
Yeah, that's almost as good as swamp gas for UFOs.
This house was built in 1940, so lots of things could have happened here.
But see, that sort of seems to say that whatever it was locked into that physical place, that physical building.
Uh-huh.
And so what in the world do you suppose happened to it when it burned?
I don't know. That's what I've always wondered. That's had me puzzled because, we were having so many weird things happen here and then all of a sudden it's gone.
Well, a lot of people in the audience scoff at this kind of thing and they say, baloney. Stories, made-up stories. Not made up, is it?
No, none of it.
I appreciate your call.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much. Take care. No, not made up. Unfortunately, these things are real. I wish that we understood more about them. And try as we might, it seems nearly impossible to achieve that. Once again, you might take a glance at my webcam photo tonight when you get a chance. It was my in the mood photo. Well, let's see what lurks upon the wildcard line. You're on the air. Hi.
Hi. How you doing?
I'm doing okay. Extinguish your radio.
I did.
Do you have a ghost story for us?
I certainly do, sir.
Let her
I
read.
have. Okay. So I was in my house in Plymouth, New Hampshire, where I actually rented the apartment above an accounting office. And one night, at about 10 o'clock at night, all of a sudden I heard some loud noise, which sounded like somebody was down there slamming one of the doors. Then I heard what sounded like somebody going into a file cabinet and just ripping through the files. Like you could just hear papers flying through.
Yep.
And then and I was scared. I said, well, I yelled down to it. I said, who's down there? And I said, I have a gun up here. And no response, just started tearing through them even more. So I went and I called the local police. They showed up in 3 minutes. The noise stopped pretty much right as they showed up. I went out and, greeted them, and they were like, well, what's going on? And they went and they checked all the doors to make sure nobody had broken in. And then, sure enough, they said, oh, there's nobody in there. They shined their lights in there, whatever, and they left. Well, the next morning, or later that night, I heard nothing more. But then, the next morning, the accountant came in and said, I went down there and said to her, this was my landlord. I said, I thought, I have to tell you, I called the police last night. I thought someone had broken in and been going through your files. She was like, well, nothing's out of order. And she's like, that's really weird because I couldn't tell. It felt like somebody was holding the door when I tried to come in this morning.
Oh, really?
Is this Art Bell?
Yo, of course it is, yes.
Yes, okay. Well,
like somebody was holding the door and she couldn't get in?
Yes, sir.
While all this was obviously going on, huh?
Yes, and then she went around the front, unlocked it, and went in, and went back to that back door, and that door was unlocked, and no one was there. And I was looking out every window in that house to make sure that nobody came running out of there, because it is a college town.
I've got to go at that point. You know, I look at my own webcam picture and it scares me. I did that myself. I look at that and I go, oh my God, what's in me? You know, maybe that's a good question. What's in me? You take a look at that. Do I have my evil side? God, I look terrible. Absolutely terrible. West of the Rockies, you're on the air. Hello.
Hello there.
Hi.
Glad to have you back, Art.
Thank you.
My name is Andrew. I'm in Castro Valley, California.
Oh, yes.
Listen, I have a story that took place in 1980. I was a sophomore in high school. I don't know if you know where the town of Auburn, California is.
I do indeed. Oh, yes.
Well, I went to high school in Auburn there. The high school was previously a university that my father attended. Just about a half a mile away, there was the Auburn Courthouse. Very famous building, huge. And it had been abandoned for at least 40 years. Right after the war, they stopped using it and moved the courthouses to a more modern building. And I was an aspiring filmmaker in those days in high school, and so I managed to get permission from the county clerk to go in and do an amateur film in there, and I got the keys, and I went into the place with 2 or 3 friends of mine.
This was going to be what? Just some historical film?
No, this was just going to be kind of a romp, kind of a fantasy little thing. I didn't quite have it worked out. We were kind of winging it as far as the film goes.
Yeah.
But it was just an interesting background once I got in there. I had no idea what I was in for, as far as the story goes, and the architecture, too, was pretty amazing. We got inside the place. If you can imagine, just a huge box, basically, made of stone, 3 stories high, and then on top of that was a giant rotund, much like a Capitol building rotund.
Oh, yes.
And on top of that was a little miniature rotund where you could get up, kind of the crow's nest.
No, I can picture it. I've seen the buildings.
Okay. Well, we got in there, and the whole downstairs was all marble. I think it had been redone in the 20s in kind of Art Deco style. And there was dust and cobwebs everywhere. And we started setting up our equipment and looking around, and mostly we were using the film as an excuse to goof off, because it was just such a tremendously interesting playground, and to have the keys to this place, I felt like I was getting away with something. But we started hearing banging noises coming from the upper floors, and we hadn't been up there yet, so we didn't know if anyone was in the building or not.
Mm-hmm.
And so we went up and checked it out. 2 of us did, and we had our girlfriends there. They stayed downstairs. They didn't want to go up, and there was no one there. So we came back down. We looked in all the courtrooms, and believe me, the courtrooms were lavish. Dark varnished wood.
Oh, even modern courtrooms are that way, and all through the South they stay that way. I mean, they're really old, as you point out, heavy wood, carved wood. You really have the feeling of old, sure.
Oh yeah, it was beautiful. And in the downstairs, there were safes. There were these enormous safes with brass and steel and iron, and they were just open, several of them. And so we filmed some footage down there, and this banging continued. And so then after having found out that no one was in the building, the banging persisted, and we started really getting nervous. And yet at the same time, we were intrigued. We wanted to see something almost, we wanted to go up and have some experience, I guess, at that age.
Mm-hmm.
And so we kind of sneaked up there and looked around, and there was, again, no one there, nothing there. The electricity was on, so we could work the lights. And we came back downstairs, and I noticed that all my papers, my script in my little folder, was not on the bench where I left it. and I was looking around for it. Maybe I left it over where the safes are or somewhere else, and so I searched for it. Couldn't find it, and then went back upstairs carrying all the equipment with us, and I noticed that, of all things, my camera strap was gone. Someone had actually taken the camera strap, unsnapped it off of the camera, the movie camera, and it was missing.
Yes.
So we carried everything up into this gigantic courtroom, and lo and behold, on top of the bench, on top of the judge's table or desk, there was my book and the camera strap neatly folded across it. And, there was only 4 of us. The girls were really reluctant to come upstairs at all. And so there was me and my friend, and I would have noticed if either of us had been carrying the book or the camera strap. And I went back down and asked the girls, how did the camera strap get off of the camera? And they said, oh, we don't know. We've just been sitting here the whole time. They were down there, having sodas and eating food or whatever. And so I'm like, okay. So we went back upstairs, and we had turned off all the lights because we wanted to see if we could do filming in the dark, with the present light coming in through the windows.
Only the young and stupid.
Well,
I mean, after all this, you're turning off the lights. All right, go ahead.
Okay, so we go back upstairs, and the light in the one courtroom is on. Now, I didn't think anything of it because, who knows, my friend could have gone back up there, turned it on, whatever.
Sure.
So we're in the courtroom, the light is on, I'm filming a little footage, and then the banging happens again. So all of us go downstairs, and the girls want to leave. They don't want any part of it now. They're scared because we've already told them there's no one here.
Proving again, girls are smarter than boys.
pretty much true. And but adventure kicks in, and so we really wanted to know what was happening.
What you call adventure is actually
stupidity.
Stupidity and youthful testosterone running out of control. Anyway, so fine, you go.
Well, the girls decided to go, and it was, the lunch hour that we had, and that was pretty much over. So, being studious individuals, they went back to school, and we stayed there, of course. And on the downstairs floor, there were cells, holding cells. Made of.
That's right. There would be cells, wouldn't there, in a old courthouse?
Well, there sure were, and a couple of them had doors at both ends. They were like long, narrow cells with a door at one end, iron bar grates, and a door at the other end.
Gotcha.
Well, we went inside one of these cells, made sure that it couldn't lock. There was no lock on it, and the other end was wide open. We walked in. The door behind us slammed shut. For no apparent reason. And so our instant reaction was to run like the dickens and go out the other end.
Yep.
Before it slammed shut. I mean, we were terrified at that point.
And so you made a dash for the other side.
We made a dash for the other side. We got out and entered into a different part of the courthouse, and circled back around to where we'd started, and it was open, as if it had never happened.
So let me guess, you went back in.
Well, no, we didn't go back into the cell. At this point, it had become like a game. We were just waiting to see what the next thing was that was going to happen. And we couldn't let it go. I mean, we weren't seeing anything. We weren't hearing voices or anything. We were just convinced that somebody's playing with us.
Yeah, well, these kind of games in the movies end up with dismembered bodies. Anyway, anything else?
Well, there was one final punctuation that made us all never go back. And that happened right outside the building in broad daylight, probably 2 o'clock in the afternoon. Up on top of the building, there were 4 statues. And they were the typical statue of justice holding the scales and the sword.
Gotcha.
Except they weren't blindfolded. They just had their eyes closed.
Right.
4 women on the cardinal points of the compass on top. We were approaching the building. Just the 2 of us, my friend Aaron and myself. We looked up. We were just about to go in the front door. I had the keys in my hand. We looked up at the statue, and her eyes were open. And then they closed.
And they closed while you watched?
They closed while we watched. And we looked at each other, And we literally did a double take. We looked back up at the statue because we both recognized that we both had seen it.
Yep.
And we looked back up, and our eyes were shut.
Uh-huh.
And that was it. We turned around and went right back to school.
The first smart move you made. That's some story, all right. Thank you very much.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, take care. Yeah, you know, when you look up at a statue and the eye opens and then closes, it's really time to go. I bought the whole thing, and the only thing that could have caused me to reject that entire story would be if they'd have, climbed up to investigate the statue or gone in the house. That would have been too much for me, but I'll buy what he gave. That wasn't bad. First time caller line, you're on the air. Hello.
Hello?
Hello.
Hello, are you talking to me?
Yes, I'm talking to you.
Oh, there you go.
Where are you?
I'm on Long Island.
All right.
New York. This is Russ. This is my first time call. And I have something that happened to me when I was 4. I'm 47 now.
Okay.
And what happened was I was running around the house after my sister. My sister was 8. I was 4. And I couldn't catch up to her. And she ran down the basement stairs. I ran down there after her. And she's running around the basement, and she's laughing, and I'm trying to catch up to her. And as I was trying to get her, I saw the basement door open. And so I said, the heck with it, and I ran up the basement steps to go outside. And when I got to the top of the steps, I noticed my sister was in the backyard playing. And I looked down the stairs, and I said, well, if she's out there playing, then who's laughing downstairs? But, at 4 years old, who really, thinks of anything scary?
Yeah, of course not. You don't.
So then I just went outside, and I continued to play. That was the first thing that happened. Then as I got older, my father would yell up the stairs at me and wake me up around 2 o'clock in the morning and say, what are you doing up there? Get to sleep. So I said, you just woke me up. So
something was going on around you.
He said he heard walking around. He says, you're walking around up there. I said, I'm not walking around. I said, you just woke me up. So now years go by, and I'm in the kitchen, and he's in bed sleeping, and my brother is upstairs sleeping now in that room, and and I heard walking around, and I went by the stairs, and I says, Jimmy, what are you doing? What are you doing? So I went upstairs, and my brother was sound asleep. So I got a chill went up my back, and I says, geez, this is what my father's been hearing all these years,
There you are.
And so that's been going on for, that happened, that went on for quite a few years.
Have you ever seen anything?
Yes, I did. Scared the hell out of me, too. I was around 15, I would think. And we had a whole, we had company over the house. It was a party for some reason. I don't know what it was. But anyway, there was a lot of people in the house. And I was coming out of the bathroom, and directly across from the bathroom is my mother's bedroom. Mm-hmm. My parents' bedroom. And so as I opened the door to come out, I saw a woman standing in the bedroom at the edge of the bed in a long white gown. I couldn't make the face out, but she was. It was just beautiful. That's all I can remember. It was just beautiful. And I went into the kitchen, and I said to my mother, I says, who's the lady inside in the bedroom with a long white gown on?
This sometimes could be a really bad thing to go tell Mom.
Well, she said...
Anyway.
Well, she said, I know what you're saying, the bride and all that stuff, but no, she says, no, there's nobody here, and there's no one in the house with a long white gown on. So I says, I'm telling you, there's someone in your bedroom there. She's standing there at the edge of the bed, and she's looking out towards the hallway. And so we went in there, and of course there was nobody in there. And from that point, whenever I went past her door, I would never look in. Thank you. But because I did not want to see that woman again. Then there was one time where I came home from work pretty late, and I walked in the house, and it was dark, and I said, Ma, you home? Because I heard the TV on in the den. and she always kept the lights out. She just kept the den lights on and, with the TV on. So she goes, I'm home. So I said, okay. I walked inside, and I walked in the den, and there was no damn TV on, and there was nobody home. So I flew out the door. I mean, I got these chills that went crazy. I just, shot out that door. Then I was sleeping, and I woke up.
We don't have a lot of time now, so.
Okay. All right. I was sleeping in my room, and the whole light was on. This is when I was just a kid, and I looked over towards the doorway, and there were two dark figures standing out my doorway. I don't know what they were, but they had these, they were shadows, and they had hats on, and they were I would say about 3 feet tall.
Oh, we know what they are.
And
we know what they are.
Yeah, well, I'm going to tell you something, Art. They were standing outside my door, and then I couldn't believe what I was seeing. I said, I'm fully awake here. I was rubbing my eyes. I said, what the heck is that? And I looked over again, and now they were in the door. They were about a foot inside the door. So I just laid down straight. I could not believe what I was seeing. I just wouldn't, I just would not believe that there was something in the room. And with that, something grabbed my feet, and I shot up through the covers, and I went for the light, and I put it on, and there was nothing in the room.
Yeah, so physically grabbing your feet.
Something grabbed my...
Now, that would scare the hell out of you. I agree with you. Thank you very much. Bad enough to see things, hear things, walking about, and then see things. But the line is drawn at the grabbing of the feet. If something physically yanks on you, that means it's strong enough to have manifested itself physically in this world, and if it wants you, it's going to have you. East of the Rockies, you're on the air.
Hello, Art?
Yes.
Hi. I'm from Indiana. I'm private in the U.S. Military Army.
Oh?
And my sister had a story quite like the females before, but, I had just a little bit to add to that myself because I had one of the experiences somewhat in the same time. But we were young, living in an Army base out in Fort Meade, Maryland. And my sister was up all night frequently, and she was always scared, and she was always running to the bathroom, and we just thought she was having bad dreams. Well, what the young lady had described earlier was exactly what my sister was talking to us about, and still continues to talk to us to this day. Something was literally scratching at her feet and grabbing at her feet, and she would run into the bathroom, shut the door, and just cry her eyes out. Now, during that time, I was also having things waking me up by breathing up in my face, and it would scare me so much that it would wake me up.
Right in your face?
Right in my face, and it just scared me completely, and Mom did not know what was going on with her kids. Now, at one time, I had felt something actually grab me, and I thought I was sleeping. I thought it was a dream, and to this day, it still feels like a dream, but I don't know, you tell me, but it almost felt like I was lifting up out of my bed. And floating down the hallway, but it still, to me, it seems like a dream. But it
might have been an out-of-body, but when things physically grab at you, it's getting real serious. Into the unknown night once again. West of the Rockies, you're on Ghost AM. Cheers.
Art, cheers.
Yes.
How you doing?
I'm doing okay, sir.
I'm calling you from San Diego, listening to you on KOGO.
That'd be the one.
Yeah, Padres won tonight. Go Padres. But, yeah, I'm JD, and I talked to you one time before, I think. I'm the guy I'm really into the Somewhere in Time thing, too, trying to bring it to stage. But before I get into the ghost story...
now, you got to go right to the ghost story.
Well, this has to do with the ghost, because did you know Somewhere in Time was really not that Mackinac Hotel?
Yes, it was actually down near you.
Yeah, Hotel Bell.
I know all about that.
And that's a haunted hotel. They have a room shut down. But that's not my story. I am from Hollywood originally, and when I was about 20, I'm 34 now. A girlfriend of mine had a very successful father who bought a mansion up in the Hollywood Hills, and it had been empty for about, 8 to 10 years or so, whatever. And the first night he bought it, he was very excited. He told his daughter, and we went to go check it out, and it had a pool. and I'm a swimmer guy, from Hollywood. Sure. Anyway, it was a really creepy pool because all the plants and everything had kind of overgrown, and it was a black bottom pool. But it was nighttime, and I took a dive in, and I'm a great swimmer. It was a hot summer night. It was in August.
Young and stupid, and in Hollywood.
Yeah, I was. And it gets worse. But so I dive in, and when I was under the water, I just got this panic feeling that something was wrong. And I got up and I got right out of the pool, and I said, something's weird about that pool. So time passes. The gentleman whose house it was moved in, and he went away. He's got schools in London and Hollywood and New York. So he went away, and he didn't like me seeing his daughter. So I was not allowed at the house, anyway, he was in London for 2 weeks, supposedly. So I went over.
Good time to see daughter.
Yeah. So I went over, and I brought my Ouija board, which I'd been messing around with.
Great idea.
I know. So we Ouija'd there, and we got a hold of, and I'd been familiar with it. She wasn't that familiar, and she thought it was being pushed, but it was these two little boys called Seth and Steve.
You mean that we're giving you messages on the Ouija board?
Yeah, for real.
Now, let me guess. The Ouija board probably said, "Come on in, the water is great."
No, that was Art Bell, Eastern West of the Rockies. No, they were 4 years old and 7. And the 4-year-old absolutely despised me. He didn't even know how to spell. He knew how to say like a few curse words.
I got you.
But anyway, moving on. This 4-year-old, I mean, really despised, and my, hair was standing up on my arms. I was like, I don't like this. It's weird. So there were these two boys, and the older one, who was 7 years old, explained that when somebody lived there about 12 years ago, they were not supposed to be hanging out there, but there was a very high wall on the other side of the pool, and they went, and the little 4-year-old fell, and the 7-year-old jumped in to save him, and the 4-year-old dragged him under. They both drowned. So they told us this on the Ouija board. So the next day, the girl's sister came over to the house to hang out by the pool, and we were all out by the pool. She wasn't going to tell her dad either. And she said, "Hey, Amy, did you know that 2 little boys drowned in this pool? And that's why it stood vacant for so long." And we looked at each other. We didn't tell her. So then here, I've never broken a bone in my body ever once, and I still haven't to this day. But the dad, all of a sudden, the next day, comes home from his, London trip 13 days early. It's like he went there and turned around. Yeah. And he shows up and found me there, and we were up in his master bedroom, just, it was not pretty. Anyway, threw me out, but I was going out, and I ran out the back, and I was like in underwear and a t-shirt, and I went, "Oh, no, the Ouija board, if you find the Ouija board." It was under the bed, so I ran back up, and I got the Ouija board, and as I was running out, something tripped me. I mean, there was nothing there. I was running down but I broke my foot, and I've never broken anything, but I know that little brat, that little 4-year-old, had tripped me. I mean, it was a panic situation. No, this is really real. Anyway, yeah, well, it's ghost night, so hey, I listen to you every night. You're the best, Art.
All right, thank you.
All right, you have a good one.
Take care. That would be terrifying in more ways than one, wouldn't it? Really, really terrifying to be caught like that. Whether it was a ghost or daddy, both were no doubt life-threatening situations. First-time caller line, you're on the air. Hello.
Hello.
Hi.
Hello. Okay. Just wanted to say here, I currently live in a house that has a couple of things in it since we've lived here.
Now? You live there now?
Yep, currently. Yeah, it's always been here. House is about 20 years old, so it was built new. We moved in new. Nothing's ever happened, but something's always here.
What do you mean? What kind of something?
I guess it has to be spirits of some kind, because like we've seen things moving in the house. Everybody who's here, you know, we've always seen something.
What do you mean moving?
Whether it's objects.
Moving in what way?
Like physically moving an object and playing games with it. Like,
now, do you mean like sort of moving across a table? Do you mean something in the air? What do you mean?
Yep. Well, I've seen it myself move. I felt it like when I actually wake me up at nighttime. It's rather unusual. Like I've seen it move objects.
In what way?
Well, like just from side to side or up or down, and then it will just drop it. It's actually taken objects, and then they've disappeared, and then they'll reappear like a few weeks later.
You know, that sounds a lot like a poltergeist.
Lovely. Well, you know what else it's done? One time when my brother, this was before he moved out, my older brother, he's reading a book, and all of a sudden he calls me upstairs, and he's like, Matt, he's like, something happened. I'm like, well, what do you mean? I smelled this awful smell, and it started burning his hair.
What?
Like, seriously, went in the room, and you know that disgusting smell when hair's been burned?
I certainly do.
Yeah, well, that was the smell in the room, and I'm saying, well, what are you talking about? He goes, well, I was reading my book, and all of a sudden my hair started catching on fire. So
that's a strong clue.
Yeah, it's a strong clue to move out.
You bet.
Yeah, and so it's always it's something
now,
every day.
Could you see anything? Was his hair singed?
Yeah, right at the top of it. Not a lot of it, but definitely enough to smell it. But I mean, that's just one thing. There's every night when I go to bed, it particularly likes picking on me, and it likes picking on my mom every single night. And
how can you handle that? I mean, how can you possibly handle that? How can you not move?
I haven't had a clue. Like, I've gone on actually on vacation, and this damn thing follows me. Like, I'm not joking. I could be in a hotel, and a day later on the trip, I'll just sense it in the room. I'm like, it's here again. It actually follows you around. Yeah, I don't know how to explain it, but that's...
well, it's a fine way. You did fine. The question is, how can you stay there? I mean, how can you stay there even one more night? Burning hair, that's way over the limit for me.
I know. I'm here every night, and usually by myself, and yeah, I'm here right now by myself, and sure enough, 2, 3 in the morning, it starts up. I record music quite a bit for a living, and it seems to enjoy playing with my equipment, whether it be turns it off, turns it on, resets different banks in my synthesizers.
Well, it beats having your hair set on fire.
Yeah, that's true.
All right, I appreciate the call, sir. Thank you. That's not good. That's not good. I know the exact smell he's talking about, and I'm sure you do too. You smelled burned hair, haven't you? It's awful. But to have your hair self-ignite, that's a really strong sign. Wildcard line, you're on the air.
Hi, Art. This is Andy from Largo, Florida.
Hello, Andy.
How are you tonight?
Fine.
Good. Got a story about a glowing tombstone. Up in Michigan, it's really good. Up in Michigan, you know, each town has their little local legends. There was a story about off at 100th Street out in Byron Center, there's this little cemetery, and they say, well, there's a glowing tombstone in it. And I remember in high school going out here, and yeah, you'd see it glowing through the years. It'd have vandals. One year, some kids took the stone. Well, the Post Farm family that maintains the yard replaced the headstone. And my friend Mark, that still lives up there, said every year, around Halloween, there's a big attraction, a big group of people that go out there. But anyway, it only glows during a full moon on a clear night. Sounds crazy. Well, I had vacation 3 years ago, and when I went up there...
Wait a minute. Let me understand. They replaced the headstone?
Mm-hmm.
because it was glowing, because something was obviously really wrong. So they put a new headstone in, and it too glowed at a full moon.
The reason they replaced the tombstone is because I guess some kids got in there and actually stole the stone.
I got you. All right.
Whatever, yeah.
But the new one glowed
and the new one glowed too. Well, when I was like, oh, please. Well, when I went up there on vacation, I looked up the post farm because I used to know the family. And most of the kids are all grown up and have their kids now. But Helen remembered me, and she talked to me for a little bit. It was nice talking to them, and I thought it was their mercury light or something reflecting, because of everybody had cornfields out there. And the cemetery is so old. I mean, the headstone said 1843 to 1920.
Right.
So he'd be, 77 years old. Hendrik Meyer, then the Meyer family from the Meyer farm. And she seemed a little stunned when I brought it up. But before I left, I took my my rental car out there one night, shut the engine off by myself, and I'm looking at this, and it happened to be a full moon, and sure enough, the headstone's glowing. Well, Art, there was an old man about 10 feet from the stone. I don't know what he was doing out there, but he was just standing there. Now, it's, most people say, well, how do you know it just could have been somebody else? And not at 2:30 in the morning, because I'm a night owl. I'm up all night. Anyway, it was just really freaky. So I got in the car and took off and told Mark about it when I called him up a few days ago, and he says, oh, yeah, they're very common. But in high school, I don't remember hearing about the old man walking around. So they can't explain it. And I guess through the years, even some students from Michigan State actually broke a small chunk off and had it studied. And all it is just granite and, graphite or whatever.
Oh, well, yes. Though, I've seen a lot of movies, and in all the movies, college students who take chips of glowing tombstones die in puddles of mush.
Yeah, really. Hey, before you hang up, one more quick story that you'll appreciate. Remember you telling about the car that stops in a railroad tracks and you can see handprints on the back of it if you put powder on it?
In San Antonio, Texas, yeah.
Okay, well,
absolutely true.
Right, well, check this out. I'm a waiter in a restaurant, and a table I had the other night went to Clarksville, Tennessee for vacation, where his uncle lives. And the same story, same scenario and everything. And I said, oh, come on. He said, well, we had to spread some butter on the back of the bumper, the back, the part of the trunk, the bumper, just underneath it. And then they put some powder on it, so the powder would actually stick. Well, they say the same story. They never heard of the San Antonio incident. They never even heard of your show. And I'm thinking, they were telling me this, because I got family that was raised in Old Hickory, Tennessee.
Well, I don't know. What did they do? Did they go to a railroad tracks?
There's a railroad track.
Park the car, and you're saying that it got pushed off and they had handprints on the car?
Exactly. And the road's not at an angle, and it was an old school bus in the 30s, and a bunch of kids were hit by a train. And as of today, I know enough about, engineering and stuff. Come on. Your car's not going to just start moving by itself. There's no way. The road's flat.
No, absolutely not.
The same San Antonio story. So what is it? But they actually saw the handprints. Well, his wife was just so freaked out about it. It bothers her today.
It would always bother me, and it still bothers me today. Why? Because of all those souls that you would not expect to remain on Earth, there would be the children, right? The innocents, the really young ones. If their lives were taken tragically by a train hitting a school bus, there's no way my mind can grasp the concept of a God that would allow their souls to remain, to push cars every now and then. It just doesn't add up. Either that or the nature of things is not as we would have it be in our world. Maybe there's nothing fair about death at all. I mean, has that ever occurred to you? Everybody thinks, well, death is going to be fair because God's fair and God's good and God wouldn't allow anything bad to happen to our souls, right? But maybe the truth is there's not anything. There's not a damn thing fair about death. Even the innocent children and the most innocent of adults, maybe there's nothing fair at all. That's something to think about. The dark of night, huh? East of the Rockies, you're on the air. Hello.
Hello, Mr. L.
Yes.
Hi, I'm really glad to have you back.
Thank you.
Okay, and before I get started, this is a good ghost story about my brother. I wanted to shout out to everybody on FNet there in the Art Bell channel. This is the source, guys. I had just told them a story in there, and they said, you got to call her and tell him this. So
all right, so you are.
Okay, my brother died a real violent death, and we were at his funeral, and he'd always told us that he'd believe in astral travel and out-of-body experience and practiced all that, and he told us he would find a way to tell us. So we're at the funeral home, and we're in a little room where there's a Coke machine and vending machines, and my brother Bill says, okay, Howard, if you're there, let us know. The lights in the room start flickering, the Coke machine flickers, goes on about 5 or 6 minutes and stops. We talked to the guy who works there, and he says, that's never happened before. He's never had any kind of problems like that in the funeral home. So we were thinking, okay, that might be a coincidence. We're leaving after the funeral, and he had an old pickup truck that was rust bucket, and we had worked on this radio in it for a long time, over a year, trying to get it to work.
Right.
And he didn't want to buy a new one for it because it's just an old work truck. And it never worked. We rewired it, put new speakers, tried to hook them up. We're pulling out, as we pull out into the road from the funeral home, the radio comes on. It's ZZ Top. It's his favorite song. It plays the whole song, and then the radio goes off, and it's never played since.
Really?
And, yeah, that's...
Really? Oh, that's... you know, in the world of is it a sign or isn't it a sign, that is 100% sign.
Well, it gets better. The light flickering thing, it started becoming more and more persistent and really consistent in my life and my family's life. I moved into an apartment about a month later. The light across the street on the street light was flickering for about a week. And it moved to the light on my side.
Yeah.
And then a few days later, the light downstairs, and then the light above my apartment went to about a week. And my brother called my mother 1 minute after midnight on her birthday, all her life. To this date, this is the most convincing evidence. To this date, on her birthday, 1 minute after midnight or 2 minutes, her phone rings. When she answers it, it's a dial tone.
I absolutely felt this wonderful love come through me. And so we walked out of the graveyard. It was probably about 4:30, maybe 5 o'clock in the evening. And we walk into the yard, and I'm still feeling all of these. And my husband goes to take a picture, and I thought, oh, maybe they'll show up. So I asked St. Michael to allow them to show up and to show up in this particular photograph. And the odd thing is, they did, but I didn't tell my husband. We got the film back about a year later.
Why wouldn't you tell him?
I don't share stuff like that often because, you know, I'm kind of like that a little bit.
Even with your husband?
No. You know, but I did later because when we got the film back, we forgot to develop it.
Yes.
And I forgot all about it. So when we got the film back, there's this giant white glowing around me, and I had 2 St. Michael's medallions, one in each hand because I was going to give them as gifts to people, and I put one in each pocket. And my hands look like they're on fire. And this giant form is radiating above me, and you can see a face. Now, I have a friend who's a graphic artist, and she went looking for faces. And I said, I'm not going to tell you where the faces are. You tell me. So she went looking for faces, and she does, like, layout for magazines. She's an editor. So she's got a very detailed eye. And she found another face, which is directly above the cross in the steeple of the mission of Santa Barbara, which looks like, a little bit like, you know, the picture that you have on your web of Jesus at the Vatican. It looks a little bit like that.
Yes.
And it was really overwhelming. And then I went and I showed this picture to a friend, and she said, I never believed you about your ghost until I went and visited a friend who went to Santa Barbara, and I walked to that graveyard. She said, I just had to get out of there. I was panicking.
Well, see, now, there's another aspect, thank you, of all this that bothers me. And that is graveyards. Again, I'm going to say this, and I don't know how you all want to be disposed of when your time on Earth is gone. But graveyards don't sound too good to me. I mean, in terms of where I think I would like to go when my time comes. I'm leaning toward the ash idea. This graveyard thing, I don't know. Don't want to think that there's any consciousness left, and if there is, that it's stuck anywhere near a graveyard, because that wouldn't be a good place to spend a lot of after time. You know? We're going to have our, by the way, our electronic voice phenomena people on again soon. They record voices in graveyards. So you see what I mean? Think about your own final disposal, do you really, really want to be down 6 for at least part of the day? East of the Rockies, you're on the air. Hi. Hello?
Hello.
Hello.
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Great. Hello, Art.
Where are you?
I'm in Oklahoma. Oklahoma City.
Oklahoma City. Yeah, all right.
Okay, I have this one for you. I was, this road that I'm referring to, that these 2 incidents happened on the same road in the same year.
What incidents?
Okay, one is on a school night back in high school. There was, I had a stepmother that I had to, pay mileage on her car, to use her car to go somewhere. So that's what I was doing. On a school night, I went to a friend's house supposedly to study. And I went over and I picked up 2 girls. One was named Sue and one was named Alexis. I hope they're listening tonight.
Hey, Sue and Alexis.
We were down this road in front of an elementary school, and we were driving, not very fast, it's like maybe 35, 40, and a man, an elderly man, and his dog, you could see, I mean, it looked just real as real can be.
Sure. Did what?
I hit him.
You hit them?
I hit the goat. Now, if you can imagine, I have 2 teenage girls.
Did you feel a thump?
There wasn't time. I had 2 hysterical teenage girls screaming at the top of their lungs.
You have my sympathy on that, but I mean, when you hit this, whatever it was, I mean, you hit a dog and a human, right?
Yes, sir.
Or what was supposed to be a dog and a human. And so obviously, all 3 of you saw the same thing. They wouldn't be screaming otherwise. And so what'd you do?
There was no noise. I had to keep my composure and try to settle them down, and I had to try to decipher and disseminate what just happened.
And so
I was able to, and we all realized something did transpire there, and they wanted to go home, and I took them home. And to this day, I didn't even go home and share that with my parents or my mother or my stepmother, because I had to borrow her car, and I'm supposed to be out studying.
And where was this?
Outside of Chicago.
Outside of Chicago. So if they're listening this morning, they could contact me. And if you contact me, I'll put you all on together, and you can verify that story.
Let me tell you, my uncle, one of my relatives on that same road, he built a nice house about 4 years later. I went to a Christmas party, and his neighbor is an elderly man. And at this Christmas party, for some reason, I started a conversation with this man.
Yes.
And I asked him how long he lived there in the area, and he said forever. So I asked him, I said, down the road there, was there any man that ever died that had a dog?
Yes.
And he said he knew his name. It was his neighbor. He died, a car hit him, and he died.
Oh.
And I'm at this Christmas party with my relatives.
Yep.
And I didn't say anything because I didn't understand it. And over the years, I've listened to Father Martin.
Well, I still don't understand it. It's the scariest, most worrisome thing you can think about. If ever there's an innocent, it's somebody killed out walking their dog across the road, right? And this guy seems to be reliving getting hit by a car or many cars again and again and again. For what? Eternity?
And we, the 3 of us, we have to live that because it's part of our life, too.
Oh, yeah. Oh, sure it is. Well, maybe the girls will get in touch with me. It frequently happens. There's a whole lot of this that really is genuinely scary because it's just unimaginable to me that people would be sentenced to these horrible eternities. West of the Rockies, you're on the air. Hello.
Hi, Art. It's Brad.
Yes.
In Rancho Santa Fe, just half a mile from the Heaven's Gate incident.
Oh, yes. I can imagine there may be some ghosting about there.
I'm 45 years old. The story I'd like to tell you took place quite some time ago, back in the 70s. If you remember, towards the end of the Beatles' career, they embraced transcendental meditation for some time.
They sure did.
Well, believe it or not, when I was a junior in high school, the people that ran that cult came to our school on career day, to a public high school.
I'll be darned.
Under the guise of, they told the people that ran the school that if we all did this meditation, that we would all get better grades. They actually called it the science of creative intelligence at that time.
Did they really? And they thought schools were foo-foo these days.
Well, they bought it, and my mother did it. Just about everybody in the school signed up.
Really?
Well, what happened was after about 3 or 4 years...
Wait. Hold your story at that point. We have a break, so
okay.
I'm just going to hold you over, and we'll finish the story, all right?
Thank you, Art.
All right, stay right there.
Back at home with my wife, we were in bed messing around, and we're both kind of guarded people, but guarded as in, we don't let a lot of things out. I pay attention to a lot of things, and I trust my senses. Well, in bed, we were lost in thought, or whatever you want to call it. I got this feeling come over me as if something was in the room with me. I never felt this feeling before, but like I said, I trust my senses, and I knew something immediately was wrong.
That'll take away the moment.
Well, it did take away the moment, and suddenly I got a vision in my head that I've never...
Like a little piece of that, maybe?
That brings chills to me because it was very similar to what I saw and heard and felt. Anyways, I kind of turned to my left and I saw something flash on the corner of my eye, and that really frightened me. And I turned to the right and kind of swung my feet out of the bed, and I saw a figure move from our bathroom into the doorway. And I turned, immediately looked to the doorway, and saw a figure move. Well, that frightened me. I jumped out of bed. I stood in the doorway, and I saw a figure running down the hallway. And at first I thought this was my wife's son. But like I said, I trust my senses. I knew something wasn't wrong or wasn't right. So I go to my wife and push her off the bed and scream at her, "There's somebody in the house. There's somebody in the house."
Do something, honey.
I start running down the hallway thinking that someone's trying to harm our children.
Sure.
And as I get almost to the hallway, across from my son's room is our bathroom, and I would be directly facing our daughter's room.
Yes.
And when I got in the hallway, a small figure, about the size of my son, about 3-4 feet tall, run across the doorway from the bathroom into his room. And of course, I ran into the room, and both of my children are sound asleep.
That's the one time you might do that, run in after something like that. If it ran into your child's room, you'd probably go in after it.
That's right. Well, the kicker of this part is like I said, that made me believe. But after this happened, my wife came out and said, "What did you see? What did you see?" And then she started getting scared. And she said, hold on. And it was like she was praying for a minute. She said, "Hold on." And then she calmed down and said, "Okay, it's gone." I said, "What is gone?" She says, "It." And I said, "What is it?" And she explained to me to a T the person I saw.
Well, okay, thank you. I don't dismiss that. I don't dismiss certainly the fact that prayer can make whatever it is go away. But I don't know that that means that, you know, we always, I think we think that that means it's erased. You know, whatever it was is now erased, as far as we're concerned, because it's gone. May not mean that at all. That thing is still somewhere. I mean, you didn't erase it, did you? Well, some of you would think so. Or release it maybe that'd be the word you'd use, release it. All you know is it's gone, right? You don't know gone to where, you know gone. Nevertheless, a tactic, if it works, it works. Wildcard line, you're on the air.
Yes, good morning, Art.
Good morning.
Yes, I am calling from Lorain, Ohio, which is about 30 miles west of Cleveland, and I'm listening to WTAM.
Yes, sir.
Yes, I'm calling from a haunted house as we speak. Let me start by saying that this has been going on ever since I've been about 5 years old. We have quite a large family, 4 children, and my mom is raising us.
Sounds like you're on a cell phone.
Yes, I am, but can you hear me clearly?
Oh, I hear you, yes.
Okay, well, let me start by saying, first of all, that I have seen things, clouds, formations, shadows. People have heard voices calling their name. Friends have been slapped in the face in the middle of the night while they were sleeping over.
In your house?
Yes. As a matter of fact, Art, I listened to your last Ghost to Ghost, and we were trying to get a hold of the psychic from WTAM that could tell us.
Oh, yes, the one who was consulting the gentleman there in the sports reporter, I believe, who was living in a haunted house, yes.
Yes. Because me and my brother would like to do a documentary on my house. We are the only owners. My grandfather had built it from his hands, and it took him many years. Friends have seen faces. Friends have seen people. My sister has seen shadows.
Do you realize, though, how dangerous it is if in this house that you're in right now, there are things able to physically manifest to the point where they can slap a face, you are in significant danger.
Well, my mother has called a parapsychologist out in Cleveland State University, and the parapsychologist has told her that by the symptoms that we have named, that he believes it's some kind of child that likes to play games. And he told us, whatever you do, please do not tell him to go away, or whatever it may be, tell him to go to the light. Because if you tell him to go away, he will just go to another household. Have you ever heard of anything?
Well, I was sort of laying that out in a way a minute ago. You might call out a name or a religious icon or the name Jesus and get something to go, but that doesn't mean that it's gone. It just means it's gone from where you are.
Well, yes. I mean, these things have been going on for years. Lights flicker. Like I said, we have tried calling.
Do you know how many documentary producers have been found in pools of blood?
Really?
Do you know how many? Do you know how many?
No, I have no idea.
Yeah, me either. But probably quite a few. So what I'm saying is, careful. Be really careful.
Oh, trust me, Art, we will be. Like I said, I am trying currently to get a hold of the psychic from WTAM because we would like to just try to bring the spirit to peace. I mean, like I said, I mean, you're right. If this thing can do the things that I've named, then, you know, what danger can lurk? I mean, like I said, we're the first owners of this house. And I don't see, you know, I just don't understand this. And it's quite frightening at times. I'll be sleeping in the middle of the night and I will feel something sit on my bed.
Oh, really?
I have a dog and a cat. My cat noticed this.
I feel someone pull on the extended leg of the tripod behind me, which I figured was one of the members, Roger, just, fooling around, teasing me. I actually grabbed onto the tripod, so I gave the tripod a hard jerk to pull it away from his hand, which pulled loose, then turned around to look at him, and he was there, back about 15 feet. There was no one else around me.
Wow.
So whoever or whatever grabbed it was something invisible. So I came back on a subsequent investigation just shortly after that and decided this would be a good place to do some videotaping, see if I could get some infrared ghost lights there. Set up the camera at the top of the stairway, focusing down along the stairs. There was a little light, a little ambient light in the place, but not much. And as I'm focusing down there and watching the screen on my camera, I notice out of the corner of my eye that I see a silhouette, a shadow silhouette, come up behind me, just shining on the wall off to the right of the stairway, which is a very enamel, glossy kind of wall. So even in the dim light, the shadow shows very well. Didn't think too much of it. I suspect it really was probably, Brendan or one of the other guys coming up behind me. Turned around to look, and no one's there. No one near me at all. But there's the shadow, perfect silhouette of a male figure still there.
Well, that figures. I mean, after all, with what you do. By the way, I'm going to be interviewing Brendan and company. I don't know, in this week or two.
Yeah, I saw that.
So, that's very typical of what you're going to get involved in. If you go traipsing and looking, trying to look this stuff up, eventually you're going to find it. I mean, if you really want to find it, and there are a lot of people who write to me and say, hey, how do I find a ghost? I'd like to experience this. Well, fine. There's lots of places you can go. You can go hang around graveyards if you want to, if you're real serious about it. Sure, hang around graveyards. Listen to stories. There are houses and hotels that are haunted. There are many places you can go if you're really serious about it. But think real hard before you make your decision. Think really hard. Because you might not like what you find. First time caller line, you're on the air. Hi.
Hi, this is Leonard in Seattle, listening to you on KOMO.
Hi, Leonard.
Hi. Oh, man, if I want to tell you.
All right.
This was about 88, 89 when I was in high school. I grew up in Alabama. About, good hour and a half drive outside of my hometown. There was this old plantation house, kind of decrepit, falling down, disrepair, way out in the middle of nowhere. You had to go down a dirt road for quite some time to get to it.
Sure.
There was a kind of a story that everybody had heard surrounding this place, that when the Sherman, I think it was, one of the northern generals was coming down, and they were freeing slaves in a lot of the plantation houses. This one family was very adamant and against the idea of having their slaves freed, and actually decided that they would kill them rather than see them freed.
Wow.
These guys, they went back there, just started slaughtering people, had them chained up to the walls, just killing them.
Oh my
a few
God.
of the people, the slaves, managed to get themselves free, get a hold of some weapons, and started just slaughtering the family.
I'll bet.
In all, I think something like 50, 55 people just murdered brutally in this one little house and the area surrounding it. And that night, the rest of them just took off. So you can imagine the angry souls that it would be hanging around this area.
Oh, I can indeed.
So one Saturday afternoon, me and some of my buddies had a couple of beers, and we were thinking, oh, what kind of trouble can we get into? We thought we'd go and, hey, let's go look at that old house, investigate it, see what we can see.
Let's go catch us a ghost, Bubba.
Exactly, right.
All right.
So we get out there, and we're looking around the house. It's just decrepit, falling down, just in terrible disrepair. We go back out around to where the old slave quarters were, these little falling down cabins and whatnot. We get close to this one cabin,
yes,
and apparently this, from what happened, I would assume that this is the place where all the killing happened. We walk up to it. We're about to go inside. I put my hand on the door, and that's when the noise starts.
The noise? What noise?
Screaming, banging on the walls. The whole shack started shaking like an earthquake. Completely freaked us out. Obviously, we didn't go in. We took off running. Cars were about 100 yards away. The weird thing is, the noise didn't get farther away as we were running farther away. It was like the noise was right over our heads. We were running like crazy.
Keeping up with you.
Exactly. I looked back towards the house and to the shack, and I saw big, bright red eyes looking out this window at us. Oh, man, we left about 3 inches of tire on the road getting out of there. I'm surprised we didn't run into a tree and have a wreck.
Well, you could have done that, ghost or not, but, whew.
That's as scared as I've ever been.
And, I take it you didn't go back.
Oh, no, we never went back into that area ever again. But,
well, I guess even these days, after a few beers, that'll slow you up, and you just don't suggest that kind of thing anymore.
Oh, well, you know, we were pretty darn sober right after the time the house started shaking.
Isn't that amazing how the chemical balance of your body can change just like that?
Oh, yeah. Almost immediately.
Appreciate the story, sir. Thank you. East of the Rockies, you're on the air. Hello.
Good morning, Art. How are you this morning?
Well, okay, sort of.
My name is Jim. I'm calling from Florida.
Yes, Jim.
And I'm listening to you on the Sky.
On the Sky?
WSKY. Out of Gainesville.
All right, Gainesville, yes.
Yes. Golly, where to start? I wrote you a while ago. Emailed you, but you were inundated with shadow people emails, so I'm sure you didn't get to mine.
Thousands of them.
Yes. I listened to the show last night, and it was absolutely fascinating, and I just want to take just a second to tell you how much my wife and I absolutely love your show.
Thank you.
Huge fans.
Thank you.
Where to start?
The beginning.
Yes. Around 1979, I got involved in a haunted house project. When I say haunted house project, I'm talking a theatrical event that would happen every year in my hometown up in Vermont.
You mean they put on a play about a haunted house? Or
no, we found an old building and we put on a haunted house.
Oh.
But we didn't realize the building was already occupied.
Actually haunted?
Oh, yeah. Well, the whole thing was started by the local JCs, and they were just doing it as a fundraiser, and I got yanked in.
JCs are usually pretty nice.
Oh, yeah. Great bunch of people.
Oh, you mean the function, not the haunted?
Yeah. Right, great bunch of people were, getting involved, raise a little money for the community, and they pulled me in because I knew I was a makeup artist. And, of course, when you're doing a scary haunted house, you want someone who can do the blood and the gore and all the fun stuff like that. So I got pulled in. So I went to a meeting at this building, and I pulled up in front of this thing, and it looked like the Addams family lived there. It was it was an old abandoned school building. Well, not entirely abandoned. Some of the offices were still being used, but it had been built around the turn of the century, very Victorian. 2-story redstone kind of building.
All right, listen, we've got this mentally pictured. Hold on, we'll do it after the break, all right?
Okay, sure.
All right, good. Stay right there.
Feeling better 'cause I'm over you. I learned my lesson and left the shop. Now I see what you really are. You're no good, baby, you're no good. You're no good, baby, you're no good. Gentle and true.
Dan, thank you very much. Listen, when you think about it, what better place for hauntings to occur than the yearly haunted house in town? You know, a lot of civic organizations do it for Halloween, right? They all build a haunted house. Goes on in almost every town across America. What better place, particularly over many years, to actually, have the real thing present, the real McCoy, because you'd never be able to separate them, and nobody'd ever believe a word you say, and people can't hear you scream in space. West of the Rockies, you're on the air. Hello.
Hi, Art.
Hi.
This is Marie in Spokane.
Hi, Marie.
Hi. My story is about a ghost that my husband and I have seen.
Both of you?
We've both seen it. The first time I saw it was when I had a daughter. She was just a few months old, and my bedroom was across the hall from hers. And I was sitting in there one night, and I looked through my open door into her open door, and in the doorway is this woman dressed in white from top to bottom, and she's kind of glowing, and she's just standing there looking at me. And I kind of looked away and looked back, and she was gone. And I'd seen her a few times after that, and I didn't know what it was. But one night I was talking to my husband, and I kind of hesitantly said that I had seen this. And he says, oh, yeah, I've seen her too. And it was just really odd, and we started calling her the White Woman. And she was dressed in white from head to toe. She kind of looked like it was maybe an old-style nurse uniform.
Right.
And when we'd see her, she'd just be standing there. I wouldn't feel like there was anything wrong going on. It was like she was protecting the baby. And even when we moved, and we'd moved when the baby was about a year old, she moved with us.
She moved with you.
She moved with us, and she would kind of stand guard over the baby like a...
Now, see, that's really, really interesting.
Isn't that weird?
Yeah.
And it was like, she was like some stern librarian, She didn't have this smile. She would just stand there like she was standing guard.
I got you.
And, and now my baby's almost 5, and we haven't seen this woman in a few years. But this is my youngest daughter. The same daughter, she used to look around and watch things. Kind of like you're saying you have that picture on the web of the baby sitting in the swing.
Did you see that?
Something. I haven't seen it yet. I was going to look when I got done.
You understand, though, what I'm saying. That baby is obviously, you can see it in the baby's soul. It's seeing what we're seeing on film.
Yeah,
it's really freaky.
We had a similar type things with our daughter. I never really looked through pictures of her.
Well, then it's obvious what she was seeing, isn't it?
She was seeing something, and when she was about 2, we'd watched the movie Fairy Tale. We have an older daughter, and we watched it, and she saw the fairies. And after she saw that movie, when she'd look up and look around and watch things moving around, she'd say, fairies, fairies. And she'd point at the fairies. And she was sure she could see fairies. And we'd just say, oh, neat, neat. And she it was just very unusual. She's
children.
Children are very interesting.
Yeah, you do yourself a favor, and you go look at that photograph.
I will.
On page number 2 of the ghost photos, all right?
All righty.
Thank you. Take care. Yes, indeed. There's no mistake about what that child is seeing. Children's expressions are easy to read, and that one's really easy to read, and it's really easy to see that child sees what the camera has captured. First time caller line, you're on the air. Hi. Hello.
Hi.
Hi. Where are you?
Right now, actually, I'm in holidays in Western Canada.
Okay.
I'm skiing in Banff, but I'm a twin. My parents died when my brother and I were very young. We were raised by our grandfather. We both were in Vietnam, and my brother was killed, or that was our understanding. When I was, I came home, and about 2 years later, my grandfather dies. He and I were living alone in his house. The night that he dies, I'm sitting on the end of my bed, sort of contemplating life, feeling a little bit sorry for myself, and I feel someone sit down next to me.
Oh.
And put his arm around my shoulder, and it's my grandfather, and he says, "Daniel's alive."
Daniel's alive.
And Daniel's my brother.
I've got you, yes.
And I froze. I didn't know what to think, and I sort of the next day I had convinced myself that I'm convincing myself that this is happening, and I tried to blow it off. That night, I was sitting in my grandfather's den on the couch, and I get a feeling, and I look over. I was just eating by myself, and I look over at the door. My grandfather's there, and he says, "Daniel's alive, and he's trapped, and you got to go get him."
And he's trapped.
He's trapped, and so this was not too too long after I'd come home, and I did make some trips back, and I was assuming that I thought he was a POW somewhere.
That's what it sounded like, yeah.
Yeah, and so I'd made a couple trips. I didn't really tell people what I was doing because I didn't want to get locked up.
Clear thinking. So anyway, we don't have a lot of time. So what happened?
Okay, so then about a year and a half later, I'm down there again, and I've decided that I'm not. This isn't happening. And
you mean you're back in Vietnam?
Yes.
Yes.
And that morning, the phone rings in my room. I pick it up. It's my grandfather on the phone, and he says he's here. He's alive. Anyway, there's turn on time. He was in a Greek Orthodox mission hospital. He was alive. He wasn't shot. He'd have been in an accident of some sort. And he was in a semi-vegetative state. Anyway,
in other words, he was in a coma.
Yeah.
Your brother was alive. You found him in Vietnam, and he was in a coma.
And we bring him home. After we get him out of the hospital at home, he was still. He never completely recovered, but I cared for him at home. The day we got home, and we're getting Daniel up into his room, there was sorry, I'm getting emotional just thinking about this. There was a mug that Daniel's made for my grandfather when we were in, I think, grade 6 or something. And it was sitting on Daniel's nightstand, and it was full of hot grape Kool-Aid. And the significance of that was that Daniel and I would drink hot. We loved it. And we used to pretend that we were drinking coffee like...
yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about. So...
And, so that a couple of years later, 5 years ago, Daniel died. And I was going to sell the house. I had listed it for sale, and anyway, I got a call from the realtor lady. She was a basket case.
We only got a few seconds.
Okay, and she went around the house. She couldn't open a single door in the house. They were all sealed shut. And she said that my brother had told her that the house wasn't for sale.
The audio, the streaming audio.
Mm-hmm.
But apparently you're not having a problem.
No, it takes about, a few more seconds for it to click in, and then it's on, just like a radio.
Cool.
I mean, perfectly. I want to throw something at you real quick before I get into my story. What is it about you and your red eyes? If I have a good story for you.
Yeah, I don't really actually want to talk about it.
Okay, well, maybe you don't want to hear my story.
No, I'll listen to your story. You go right ahead. Let's hear it.
Well, it kind of kicked off when you had Gunny on last night. And I'm sure you've probably seen and you've heard people mention the movie already, Amityville.
Oh, of course.
All right, remember the scene about the red eyes through the window?
Yes.
Okay. Out of that whole darn movie, that's the only thing that scared the you-know-what out of me. And anyhow, during my school years, going to college, I always thought there was a presence in my room and this kind of thing. And people say, "Oh, you're just dreaming." Well, okay. But why is it when I wake up, it's always right at 3:15 in the morning? And, just like in the movie. And I thought, nah, it's no big deal. Well, this went on, and like every other night, I'd always wake up right on the dot. And I had one of those illuminated clocks, 3:15 in the morning.
Yes.
Okay. Several years later, while I'm married, I had the red eyes show up. And
see, I was about to say, waking up at 3:15 or a given time every day is not all that unusual. A lot of people do that.
Right.
But not the red eyes.
Well,
how did they show up?
Well, in this case, and I mentioned Gunny because, not to go backwards here, but yeah, picture 17 and 18, I've seen those big time.
Mm-hmm.
But anyhow, he was mentioning how sometimes things will come to you in a dream state, or at least you're real relaxed or whatnot. But I was laying in my bed, and all of a sudden it's like wham! I'm being chased.
In bed?
I'm in a tunnel with slimy walls.
Oh, and, all right. So you're suddenly out of your body.
Right, and all I see is these red eyes coming at me, and I'm running like what?
Yeah, that'll keep you going.
Well, I woke up screaming and yelling. My wife thought somebody was in the house. Even the hair on the back of my neck was standing up.
Well, this is usually called a nightmare.
I know. It's supposed to be a ghost story. Guess what? I look at the clock.
3:15.
3:15.
I could have guessed.
And, maybe a month or two later, not the running or the chasing, but I'm laying in my bed, and yes, most people say, "Oh, you just fell asleep." Well, I'm staring at my door, and my closet door, like you were saying, you don't like your open door closets.
Right.
And I don't know if I was hallucinating, I wasn't drunk, wasn't doing drugs, but I'm going to sleep, I thought, and boom, there's the eyes, just like that.
In the closet?
Coming out of the closet.
Coming out of the closet?
No silhouette, just the
red eyes coming out of the closet.
Just the darn eyes.
I'm done with you, sir. I don't want to hear any more of that. Red eyes coming out of a closet. Sorry, that's it. That's where I draw the line. I don't want to hear any more. That is of all the nightmares that could be, that's the worst. That's something that that's just enough. West of the Rockies, you're on the air. Hello.
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 I guess it's me. How are you?
I was all right.
I have a ghost experience that changed my life.
Oh, well, they usually do. Go right ahead.
I took a job as a custodian at a research center in the country. And my first night, this guy, he had a DUI, so he couldn't drive. He wanted me to take him home. And I said, yeah, I would. And we wound up coming home this back way. And he said that he didn't want me to go down this certain street, for fear of ghosts or whatever.
Sure.
So I went down there anyway.
Although that's pretty unusual. If somebody isn't going to go down the street, you're on your way somewhere, and it's not usual to give anybody that reason. We're not going to go there because there might be ghosts. Come on.
Yeah, this is true. Well, I come up at the stop sign, and at the other stop sign on this street, there's an intersection, and there's a car at the stop sign, too. It's a black car.
Yes.
And it didn't signal. Then it put on its signal abruptly, and I was at the stoplight. And for some reason, I didn't go. I was supposed to go, then it was supposed to turn.
Yes.
And I got goosebumps. I started shivering, and my friend is just talking to me. He's holding a conversation because we just met each other. And I can't go. I'm stuck at the wheel, and I'm just looking at this car. And then finally, for some reason, I started inching out, and the car started inching out too. And I was just trembling, and he was talking to me. And I looked, and in this black car is this woman with this grotesque, wrinkled face. Just staring at me. Old woman. It just looked dead. And I looked at my friend and I go, what an ugly woman. And he goes, what are you talking about? I go, don't you see that car right there? And he goes, I don't see anything. What are you talking about? And I just kept going. I go, do you see me trembling? And he goes, no, I don't see anything. Okay, well, this is the first night. The second night, I decided to go down there to try this again. So we got on the same road, same night. It's about 3 a.m, something like that. We're driving down.
Why would you, wait a minute, why would you possibly go back to the same place again after something that terrifying? Why would you go back?
I think it's because he told me he didn't see anything, and maybe I thought I was delusional. I don't know. But I decided to try it again.
All right.
Maybe I should be a ghost hunter. I don't know.
All right.
But anyways, the second night, same road, same everything, almost the same spot. We're driving down, and there's this house on the corner. And we're driving, and we're coming up to the same stoplight, and I start to slow down, and I look, for some reason, I look over at this house, and I look up, and it's a two-story house, and in the second story, there's this room with a red light on. And it looks like it's radiating out the window, almost like, have you ever developed film?
Yes, I have.
They use the red light.
Yes.
You can see that light is coming out. And I just stopped, and I was like, for some reason it intrigued me, and I told my friend again, and he saw the light this time. I go, do you see that light? And he's like, yeah, that's kind of unusual for someone to be developing film at 3 in the morning, huh? And he was like, yeah, I guess. And we look, and we're looking and staring, and then I see that woman's face in the window, staring back at me.
Same woman.
The same face. And I told my friend, okay, I'm not delusional. Do you see that? And he's like, no, I don't. So we get out of the car, and we go to the house, we knock on the door to make sure that I'm not crazy. And this old gentleman enters the door. I mean, we wake him up at 3 in the morning. Of course, he's mad, upset.
What the hell are you on, son?
Yeah, pretty much. And I told him, I said, hey, we saw this red light coming out of your second-story house. We just wanted to make sure everything was okay. We didn't want to think we're crazy. And he's like, what are you talking about? And we said, upstairs, is there someone here? Or he goes, no, I live alone. We go, do you have a dark room or something? Well, no, I don't have a dark room. I go, well, what's upstairs? He's like, nothing really, just some old keepsakes or something, whatever. And we told him that there was a light on upstairs or this or that. Well, he went upstairs and he said, well, nothing's on or this or that. So we said, okay. Well, as we're walking back to the car, we look into the orchard, which is behind his house, and there's a light on in the orchard.
And
I go, let's go check it out. So we go walking over to this light, and we keep getting farther and farther into the orchard, and then finally we come across this light.
You only got a few seconds.
Okay, so my friend goes, hey, there's a note. So he picks it up, and he puts it in his pocket, and just as he looked up, he goes, I hear something, do you? And then I said, no. So we got back in the car.
Real quick.
And we're taking off down the street, and I almost hit that woman with the face. And when I got home, we pulled out the note, and it said, nice to meet you.
Oh. The young and the
stupid. We all start laughing hysterically, and all of a sudden there's not 3 of us laughing, there's 4 people laughing.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and we look in this guy, he's dressed just kind of like us, hiking boots, blue jeans, a down-filled jacket, but his eyes look like the eyes of an animal caught in somebody's headlights.
Yeah.
And so my buddy Paul goes,
I know the look.
Right, my buddy Paul goes, who the are you?
Yes.
And the guy continues to laugh, gets up, turns around and walks about 3 steps away and just basically disappears.
Oh, my.
And being young teenage bravado, right, we're thinking somebody's trying to pull a little trick on us, so we all jump up and we're going to go find this guy. Well, it's too dark to walk in the secluded area without flashlight.
No, wait a minute. I could take somebody's fooling around with us part of this, except for the fact that you just said he disappeared before your eyes.
That's what we thought, but then,
we're 3 of you now.
Yeah.
Well, that doesn't smack of a high school prank.
No, it doesn't. And that's what happened was, after a few minutes, we kind of came back to the fire, and the longer we sat there, the scareder we got.
Yeah.
And pretty soon it was, we think we better move our camp.
Right.
And so we did. We actually got up that night and moved closer to where we knew there were some other people, because the longer we sat there, the more freaked out we were. But I just wanted to throw that in because none of us said, in the name of Jesus, go away. It was basically, who the are you? And whoever he was turned around and walked away.
Well, maybe you spoke the language you knew.
Well, that's true. Maybe a drowned camper would understand that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Take care. West of the Rockies, you're on the air. Hello.
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 Hi, Art. How are you?
Oh, progressively going downhill here lately.
Well,
I'm hanging in there. How are you doing?
Well, actually, what I'm about to tell you actually goes back about 10 or 15 years when I was in the canal zone.
Oh, really? Panama Canal, yes.
Yeah. And my sister and I, she lived in Gamboa. She had a Ouija board. And, this is going to get strange. But we kind of got to playing around. It's the first and the last time I ever played with one of those things. And we contacted a spirit, if you will. and asked where it was from, and it spelt out Culebra, which is the town of Culebra during the construction days. And my sister asked it to make, if it could make a present, and it said yes.
You know, when you're doing all this on a Ouija board and you're getting that much information back and it's beginning to be contemporary, a town you know, at this point, how are you accounting for what you're doing?
Well, I'm really not sure, man. This was, like I said, the first and last time we ever played with anything like this. Okay. Anyway, she asked if it could make a presence, and it said yes, and it spelled out clock, C-L-O-C-K, and then it went to buy.
Spelled it out on the Ouija.
Spelled out clock
on the Ouija board.
It literally.
And then
went to buy. It left.
Yeah.
My sister had about 6 cats at the time, and about 3 minutes after it went by, the cats were running wild in the house, and just, I mean, one of them went behind the refrigerator.
Yep.
And she had a clock that was made out of some exotic wood cut out of Panama, of the shape of Panama. And the clock, we had noticed, had turned at a 45-degree angle. Now, after that incident, we never, ever, ever brought out that Ouija board again.
Well, you know, you're lucky that what obviously decided to interact with you didn't decide to stay and or cross over.
Well, it's just kind of funny. You know, we're talking about construction day era, and it just kind of freaked us out a little bit because, I mean, you don't just see clocks like turning on walls and things like that. And we didn't physically see it turn. We just happened to notice later on, within about 5 or 10 minutes.
Well, yeah, sure. It's pretty specific. If it says clock and then the clock is physically turned, that'd be enough. That'd be more than enough for me, especially after all that spelling.
Well, it scared the hell out of me, dude.
I hear you. All right, thank you. Take care. East of the Rockies, you're on the air. Good morning.
Hi, Denise from Iowa.
Iowa, yes.
And when I was 17, I was in my bed sleeping, and I woke up and I saw a spirit looking down on me.
What kind of spirit?
Well, I'll describe him for you. He had a black hat on, he was blonde hair, white, and he had a red shirt and black jeans on, and I could see through him, but I could totally see him.
Was he actually hovering above you, standing in front of you, sitting?
He was standing over me.
Over you?
Yeah, he was just look down, you know, just put your head down, look, you know, and then he walked through my window.
Walked through your window?
Yeah.
As in leaving?
And then I jumped up and I looked out in my window and nobody was there.
A lot of people would find it amazing that you would jump up and look out your window.
He looked so real to me, so I just, like, wait a minute.
I mean, I just can't believe in modern day when we all know that if you go up to a door or a window where something like that has happened, a hand is going to grab you and drag you through the glass until there's nothing left of you but a shred. When you go up the window like that. So I just can't believe in this modern day you would actually go up to the window.
Well, my bed was right next to the window, so I just looked over at my window.
Okay. I appreciate your story.
Thanks.
Thank you. Wildcard line, you're on the air.
Hello.
Hello.
Yeah, this happened about summer of '97.
It's going to have to be a real fast one because our program is ending.
Okay, I lived in the town of all towns in Pahrump about that time.
Pahrump. Oh,
yeah.
Right. Oh.
Yeah.
Great. Let's end it this way. All right.
And I was living with a girlfriend of mine at the time, and this one house is a single wide with attachments made on it and everything. And every once in a while, her 4-year-old daughter at the time would come up and say, there's a man in my closet. I go back there and look, nothing there.
Closet.
And then every time, I'd hear voices standing by the front door, or somebody hear voices standing in the back room, and we go outside, nothing. Dark, and can't see anything. Get a flashlight, don't see nothing.
Right.
I'd call her on the phone when I was out on the road, and she'd say, hold on a minute, somebody's in the bathroom. And then she'd say, I just heard a toilet flush. I'm the only one in the house. Because her kids would be over at her mom's at the time or something. Or the weird things like that would happen all the time. And we parked one night about a block away from the house, and we just watched the house, and we just saw shadows moving inside the house. You could see the lights from the next door neighbor shining through the windows, and you just see shadows roaming back and forth across the house. And it was like, needless to say, we didn't stay there very long. We ended up moving to another house across town.
You know, let me tell you something. There are haunted houses. I really haven't said this before, but there are haunted houses here in Pahrump, Nevada. In fact, there are references to them on the World Wide Web.
Oh, really?
Yeah, right here, of course. Doesn't it figure right in my own little town?
Of course.
I mean, why not? It seems to happen everywhere else, so it might as well be here in my own hometown. And here you are, my final caller with a haunting in Pahrump.